pulling in.
He's pulling in one. Okay, we'll give Harold a couple of minutes to get him. He's right there. His desk.
Normal temperature, please proceed. Verification needed. Please check the temperature.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if you will stand with me for the prayer and the pledge, we'll let Robbie lead us in the prayer and I'll lead us in the pledge. Kenny, Rhonda, Nathan, and Chris, can you hear us okay? Yes. Okay. We can hear you fine. Okay, and I have the approval of the minutes from October the 6th, 2020 workshop. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, do I have a second? All in favor? Mike? Wait a minute, we're gonna have to do roll call. Did he go to Rhonda was the second? Rhonda, did you second that? Okay. Mike,
What, to table?
to table or to let it,
I'll say no.
no? Harold?
Yes.
Robbie?
No.
Okay, so the motion carries, so that's tabled till the next meeting. Approval of agenda or motion to amend the agenda. We have approval to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Mike?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Rhonda? Here. Nathan? There's no order on that part of it. We don't have it set up. I'm just doing it by what we've got. Shelley Wojon, you're on the public comments. Would you like to come speak first? Sorry, Johnny, you're not first. Public comments first.
Sorry, guys.
I could have let you sit down a little while ago, didn't I?
All right.
I don't want to mess with your thing.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
Okay.
No, you don't need to move it, I just don't
No,
want
it's
to mess
fine.
with your stuff. Okay.
Shelley, you may have to really speak into that microphone.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
it's
the people on the phone, can you hear me?
Can you hear her speak? You can't, or, okay,
Yes?
you may have to pull your mask down to speak in.
Okay, I don't mind that. Is this, am I clear now? I just took off my mask. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. May it please the council, my name is Shelley Wojon, and I am Zach Wojon's wife and general counsel of Executive Parking Systems. I'm here before you today because I've been made aware of an email with some allegations of questions of ethics, a conflict of interest, as well as fiduciary duties by a non-disclosure, and regarding a purchase of a property at 204 West Main Street. And I just wanted to come before you all to let you know how and what happened with that. Zach has been nothing but open and candid regarding the purchase of this property. He has spoken with both Mr. Martinez as well as Nathan regarding his intent and the purchase of this. And having those open discussions with them, if the issue of the non-disclosure is because it wasn't formally presented before the council as a matter of procedure, I just need to know that. I will make sure that happens if there is another opportunity like that. But as far as any sort of conflict of interest, I can tell you as a family and as a business, we have nothing but the best of interest for the city of Blue Ridge in our intentions with what we do. And in fact, that is the reason why Zach purchased this property. He wanted to ensure that there was parking available for the train specifically, because that's been his understanding is what the problems with the local business owners and the community as far as street parking and taking up that parking. So he reached out to the train to see if him buying that parking lot would help them. And the response from Rachel was, yes, yes, that would help me tremendously with being able to give people a place to park. And so that's what we did. And so having all of that set forth, and it's been very open communications that we have those interests for the city. And we wanted to ensure that this parking would remain a parking lot, because also it's my understanding since being here that several of the city's parking assets have been purchased and developed, where even as they're developed, they're deficient in the parking that they have for their own businesses, let alone for the city's purposes as well. So we wanted to ensure that on behalf of the city. So there was also a question of competing with the city and having our own parking lot to ensure the benefit of the city's business, and also managing that asset actually allows us to help the city manage their own and actually turn that parking more, because it removes the people off of the streets, which solves the problems for the businesses to get more people there for their businesses. But then it also helps with the city to be able to turn that, because that's how parking works, is to be able to create turns and create more parkers and parking available. And so that is what we've done. And so I wanted to be able to come before you all and actually address that concern. And I also know that the parking agreement is on the agenda. I'm available for any questions that you may have with that. I know it's been brought up before several times. Our COO, Chief Operations Officer, Dan Shastall, is also here, and we can answer any of those questions for you. I brought business cards. I know you've met my husband, but if I may approach, I can give you both all my business cards. That way you have my direct contact. And of course, anyone on the phone, if you need to get a hold of me, I think you know how, and you've got my email as well as my phone number, please feel free to reach out to me. But I just wanted to make sure that the issues of any sort of ethics is addressed. I'm a retired criminal prosecutor of 15 years, and ethics is something I hold very dear to my heart, and I made sure everything is in line as far as my husband's business and how he conducts himself. And I just wanted to respond to that in person. So, would you all like my cards now approach, please?
And I think Nathan had a question.
Yes, Nathan, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yes, sir.
Can't hear him.
Nathan, you're fading out. I'm sorry, I can't hear you that clear, and someone was asking. I heard I'm an attorney. Yes, I am. And being familiar with
She cannot
legalities.
hear you, Nathan. She cannot.
I can't hear you. Can I put my mask on and come forward?
We need to hear too.
Yeah, okay.
We'll
Yeah,
use
I'm
a
gonna put my
microphone.
mask on. I'm gonna step up, and then give me Okay. Okay, please repeat your question. I just came up here.
We can't hear him.
Don't we need to hear too? Can't you use your microphones up
We
there?
can't, the crowd cannot hear you, Nathan.
Crazy, it's ridiculous.
He's asking, since I'm an attorney and he holds someone like me to a higher standard, and that I should know better, and this is a sore subject for him, if I knew better.
Why did you not disclose up front, Bill, before after?
We need to hear
No,
that.
it was disclosed prior. We had a lunch with you specific, yes, sir. And not formally to the council because I was not aware of the process.
We can't hear that.
He's saying that it was not disclosed.
We need to
Do
prior.
they
hear
have
him
her
say it.
microphones or
Okay.
not?
Yeah, he needs to
Okay.
be here to say something.
Okay.
I have to remote it, I can't be there.
Okay, so, I don't know how else for you to hear it, that I would got his microphone.
Can I ask the council, is there a formal procedure for informing you other than speaking with people on council?
The mayor should have done it.
The mayor had it posted with MLS, it was on MLS, it was listed with Mountain.
Okay, I don't have anything to do with that.
No, I'm not clueless. That is a public way of listing your property, and it has been on the MLS with, if you will listen, it was a private property, it was not a city property, so. It is not against a charter violation.
We have a public meeting, it's where
We
you
deal
hear
with all
things.
kinds of people that deal with the city.
It is illegal.
It is not illegal. It is my personal property, and I have the authority to sell it. It was listed, Ms. Thomas's Mountain Place Realty actually listed it 700 and something days ago. She knew it was for sale. She had buyers. You had people that felt about it.
Okay,
So,
that's
so I think that's enough. I think it's been discussed, and other than that, it's not a city issue. So anything else, Ms. Slojan? Do you use Johnson paving? Do you use Holloway's for?
We can't hear a
Do you use
thing.
Georgia paper? Those are all
Nothing.
things in the city. Okay, so thank you, Ms. Slojan.
But may I get some clarification from you, Ms. Mayor? What is our process? If Zach decides to purchase another property, because he already has commercial real estate in downtown at 520 West Main, which has not been a problem previously.
Yes,
And so-
which is a separate lot.
Yes, it's 520 West Main, and then now there's 204 West Main. So,
You're a private business.
well, but just for the sake of transparency, for the city council, is there a process? Do we need to come before? Well, we have spoken with you and Caesar about this. And so it's I didn't know.
And I think, Ms. Slojan.
Yes, sir, we did. You and I spoke at a lunch on December 15th and then on the phone on December 21st. Yes, sir. And the closing date was December 22nd. Again, if it's an issue of presenting for the sake of
Let me
transparency.
answer your question.
Yes,
Mr. Bally is our attorney, so I
Yes,
think he's the person that we can ask how you would.
I know I missed him last
So he's not here tonight, but we will get him to answer that question for you.
please, but it is, I can assure you, it's not an
You
issue.
had already verified that it was just a charter, and you got to read
It is not against the charter for them to buy property, so she had a
I've got,
different question.
I've got a couple
So Mr.
questions.
Painter has a question.
For me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Do you want me to stand here so I can be heard? Okay. Yes, sir.
So with the purchase of the private
Yes,
lot,
sir.
will the city still be receiving their percentage?
That is That property was actually purchased with our business partner, Isaac Antony, as a separate entity. So that is not a city property. The
Okay.
204 West Main. The property listed as a co-op in any of the other city properties, yes.
Okay, another question, so you just to purchase additional property within the city?
I do not know that right now, no. However, I can tell you that Isaac Antony, who is our partner, he is a major property holder in Atlanta.
I don't mean that.
So I'm just saying, he wants to come up here, he came up here to visit us with his family, that's when he knows the for sale sign. He may look at other properties that he, because I know he's spoken with other realtors, and Zach has looked at other properties with me.
And I have a question. You
Yes,
actually
ma'am.
are leasing another property that you're using for parking too with your business, right?
Yes,
It's not
ma'am.
part of the city property.
No, ma'am, that is the address of 56
And that's on
Mountain.
Mountain Street?
Yes, ma'am, the address is 56 Mountain. That is with, I'm sorry? Yes, ma'am?
That's kind of my concern, and to be honest, yours are better than what we have to offer in municipal parking, and what we want is to be able to purchase more parking for downtown, and we need our numbers to stay pretty high. So how can we be assured that you're not going to push your property over ours?
No, ma'am, we would not.
Or even when we're collecting money, how do we know that we're getting our fair share of the money? Is, say for instance, people are putting, you know, the wrong coding, which is usually done over here to the other parking area instead of ours.
Well,
How can we be sure that we're not going to receive financial harm for this?
well, as far as the reporting goes, everything that is done, we actually provide an open report to the city every month when we give them a check. And that is something that we go back through and actually comb through the numbers to make sure everything adds up. And if it's ever a question, then we go through and actually start doing backtracking to look into things. Dan can actually answer more thoroughly as to how all of that reporting comes in. And because he's got a sort of back office into what the text to park feature is, and so he can actually try to match up some of the different transactions if it appears to be something that is inconsistent. As far as pushing private property over city property, the way parking works is all about different locations, and honestly, all we have is 50 parking spaces. And so if those 50 fill up, that leaves the entire city streets as well as the co-op lot, which is much, much greater. Give you an example. So it's my understanding that the hotel that is being built is currently parking deficient in terms of number of spaces that they're currently building compared to number of rooms that they're building. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's somewhere between 20, 30 parking spaces shy of what it would be if they were, not, it's less than, I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm not sure.
No.
They're not shy.
They're not shy, okay, because it was my understanding that they were at one point. But again, just as an example, if there is a need for someone to come in for some sort of agreed upon parking, using either a long-term parking space or something like that, that is something that we would negotiate on behalf of the city, where validations would be purchased in advance for the city to be able to park on the city property. If it is something small like the train, which it was our understanding, again, based upon speaking with the different business owners around the downtown area, that the train was the problem, we thought we were solving the problem for the business owners to be able to get the parking off of the streets to allow more parking for their customers to come in, as opposed to someone who comes in for 4 to 6 hours at a time and creating that backup where people can't come to the businesses to openly shop or go to the restaurants. So it's just an issue of, and the same signage is put up, so it's not big light signs, park here, park here. The only thing that we thought we were doing was helping the city alleviate their parking stresses for the downtown business. We keep the same rates. We haven't done anything as far as reducing rates to try to influence people to park. We haven't done anything. In fact, we try to increase the signage for the city so that people can know where to park. Because when people do come in for the city, when festivals return, there will be people there to actually try to get people into the city properties. And if there's more city properties, because right now the only one that we know of would be the co-op.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I've got you.
Yes, sir.
You ready for mine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Woodjohn, if you were looking out for the city's best interest and what was truly best for the city, why would you go purchase a parking lot with the own city in which you have a contract on to represent them and collect the parking for them? I don't buy that.
Again, it was to make sure that that parking stayed parking. Every time there's been any sort of development,
You know better when you're setting yourself contract with.
No, sir.
Clear.
It's to ensure that it stays parking. And that's been the consistent conversation that we've had. And in fact, it was a question that was posed at one point at the closing, I believe, was what do you intend to do with this property? And Zach said, I'm keeping it a parking lot. The city needs parking. And that's what we're trying to do, is to help the city
I can
find
tell you
their
that
parking
the people
and
the people
keep
at
their
large That I
parking.
know about this are not okay with it. So we represent the people of this city.
Yes, sir, and I'm one of those people of the city. And my children go to school here. And we have a vested interest to make sure that the city stays what it is and to be able to grow and maintain its growth. And with that is
And I
parking.
appreciate that, but
And that's what we're trying to do.
Talk together, walk the walk, and if you're looking out for the best interest of the city, then your actions need to reflect that.
And we put our money where our mouth is in terms of trying to keep the cities having access to parking.
And we actually have another paid parking lot that's going in too.
Okay.
It's not gonna be part of the city, so that individual has a parking lot going out. So. Okay, thank you, Ms.
And
Woodruff.
that's not a problem, Donna, that's not the problem. The problem is there is a conflict of interest when you are representing the city and then you open up your own, and to me, it just seems like you're getting into issues where you're, you may be pushing them more toward your parking lot, or maybe the money's not provided appropriately because of this. That's the problem. We are all about independent parking lots. It's okay. That's not the issue.
Ma'am.
And the other issue being, there is very clearly stated in our charter that when there's a conflict of interest with anything, it needs to be disclosed, and that person does not, it needs to be disclosed to the public in a meeting or in writing. And it's what it clearly states in the charter. It needs to be in writing and at a meeting.
And it says that in the
There's not
charter.
dishonesty going on, we're confident.
Okay, Shelley, anything else?
As far as what competing would look like, here's an example of what we do in other locations where we manage multiple different locations that are next to each other, owned by several different people. And we have created ways to maximize the revenues and the parkers for each of those properties. So none of those properties actually see any sort of decrease or deficiency. And we do that all over Atlanta. There's different properties in Atlanta that are owned by multiple different people that are all next door to each other. And then we try to get them to where we can maximize those for each of those people. And it's never been an issue. We've never before had anyone come say, well, you're advertising this lot more, you're doing this different. We've kept everything where we've been able to maximize it for all.
Okay, well, I asked her a question, so I asked her a question, so there wasn't a time on that. So, okay, thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have, Tim Hubbs.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak after Johnny speaks, if that's okay. It's related to his presentation.
So, I'm assuming since you're from the bank, you're speaking in favor of it.
Yes, ma'am.
So typically that is a 10-minute time frame for that.
I
So
won't
if you,
be but 5 or less.
yeah, but it's 10 minutes collaborative, so I think he may need his 10 minutes. So if you want to take a couple of minutes to speak beforehand, and then if we have time and circle back around, we can do that too. But thank you. Yeah, so we set up a little different.
My name is Tim Hubbs, and I'm the CEO of Nantahala Bank. A lot of you have probably never heard of Nantahala Bank. We are located in Franklin. We have offices in Hazel and Murphy. Unfortunately, we started around 2004, and we were growing as fast as we could. And in about 2008 to 2012, about 110 of our largest borrowers filed bankruptcy and walked away, and another 110 walked away as well. And as most of y'all probably know, there's three banks just south of the border, probably all within 15 miles of our branches in Georgia that failed, that impacted all of us in property values. And we cumulatively to date have lost about $18 million. We would be close to our local folks didn't put money in the bank to try to save it. I know that's not your issue, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of who we are. One of the properties that we ended up taking through no desire of our own was the 14-acre parcel that is, I guess, close to College Street and is being considered for a family unit or multi-housing development. We are, would love to see some way to sell this property. We get a lot of pressure from the FDIC and the North Carolina Commissioner of Banks to try to sell as quick as we can. We've owned it for about 4 years. Not a lot of opportunity to sell this kind of property. We are aware that just to the west of us, within this west, there's about a 40-unit development. And I guess what we'd like to do is, if y'all decide not to allow this development, you tell us why and why we be treated different. Maybe it's because it's timing and sewer restrictions and infrastructure. My calculations, I'm a CPA by background, is the property tax value of this 14 acres right now is, y'all have it around $200,000. I think the property adjacent to it, they're going from $350,000 to $450,000 per unit. So I believe that from a tax standpoint, really over a 10-year period, I think it could be millions of dollars for the city of Blue Ridge and for Fannin County. And again, if you all decide it's not a good idea, if y'all could help us maybe a little bit, I know you don't have responsibility to that, what would be a good use for this property that's inside the city limits. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, Caesar.
Good evening. Just a few things. From a BRPA standpoint, just wanted to let everybody know unequivocally that Fire and Ice is canceled for 2021. Given the surge in coronavirus in our state, there's no way we can expose 7,000 people on President's Weekend, so it's been canceled. DDA wise, a couple things. Number one is we are required to have a meeting with the city council annually. I would like to propose that we have that meeting at the next DDA meeting, which is February 1st. Our regularly scheduled meeting is at 5:30. Is that okay?
That's fine, Mr. Levon.
Very good.
Do you have any updates, like a sheet where you go through what you have done for the year, or
I can have it
projects
for
or
you.
goal sheets? Or
And we'll also have a
Can you send
financial.
that to us beforehand?
Sure.
Okay.
And we'll have a financial update from Alicia, so you'll know what we have.
Yeah, I see that anyway. So we can get a copy.
Yeah, I probably figured. The other thing I wanted to say from a DDA standpoint is I know there seems to be a lot of concern about executive parking systems in Zach. I will tell you my workings with Zach have been nothing but professional, and I trust his judgment. He's acted as a parking consultant for us for a long time. And his efforts have given the city and the DDA a revenue stream that is bigger than what we get even from the hotel motel tax force. He's done a lot for the city, and I find him to be professional and completely transparent, at least with me. So just want to let you know, and I fully support the contract that he has in front of the council. In fact, if you guys approved it, I would sign it on it. Okay? Any questions for me? Nope.
I don't have any, thank you.
Hey, excuse me,
Okay, Rhonda must have a question for you, Caesar.
Yeah.
now that we're not informed of this part-time history, might I suggest that we allow speakers to use the microphone where I normally sit, because it's not a different distance, and it actually seems to be better. Can we do that?
Well, we can actually let her use Harold's maybe, because we have Harold using yours.
Yeah, because I have not been able to I caught every word.
I think it's the way the speakers turn.
Same, and then I got a question, we not open public hearing and now we kick around, is that not the case?
No, we're in, public comments. We're under public comments.
Speak on that topic in the,
Well, so why would we do that unless you, if that is speaking here at the public hearing, it needs to be done legally.
What are you wanting in the public hearing? We're in public comments. Caesar just spoke.
I think he's referring to the, speaking on his property.
That should be in the public hearing.
But he signed up in public comments, so we signed him up there, so, okay.
He probably should have probably been
It doesn't really matter.
That's not the rest.
You might want to turn that speaker around, that might help them get that. And then turn that. Okay, Mr. Hastings, we're gonna go ahead and do your rezoning request. Yeah, he's not up to the podium yet, so we're gonna go over it. Okay, so, Mr. Hastings, we're gonna open the, public hearing. You'll have 10 minutes, to discuss your project, and I know you had some handouts or some other things.
I did, I gave it to city council.
Okay, can you hear? You wanna test it?
Test, test.
Okay. Can you hear them?
That's better, yes.
Okay. So you'll have 10 minutes. We'll open up the public hearing. Then the opposition will also have a 10 minutes to speak also. Okay? And we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this point. And Mr. Hastings, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, city council members. We appreciate your time tonight. Citizens of Blue Ridge, a lot of folks I saw previously. Good to see you again. My name is Johnny Hastings. We're the developer for the proposed social at Blue Ridge. We met at City Planning Commission just before Christmas. Had a nice meeting with most of the folks in this room. We were told at planning that we had 10 minutes each, but we all agreed to go ahead and just open it up to a public forum. In other words, everybody at that meeting that night got to speak as long as they wanted and say anything they wanted. I stayed there for a couple hours, and it was my pleasure to hear everybody out. And so the 10 minutes was not adhered to because I thought it would be, appropriate for everybody in this room to get up and say what they wanted to say, and they did. And it was a good hearing. Some of the comments that came back to me as a developer were traffic was a big concern, density was a concern, just growth in the community was a concern. We listened. And I think we have something tonight that we're going to extend to the community that I think will be looked upon favorably. Prior to doing that, I'd like to just kind of give a brief history, Madam Mayor, if I could, of how we got to this point. I came here in January last year, and I met with some of the community leaders, and I asked, what is the need in the community? What is it that you guys need in terms of housing? And I was led to believe that many folks thought that affordable housing was what was needed for people like firemen, policemen, teachers, people that work in this building, people that run retail, managers of restaurants. So I said, I went back to my team and I said, look, why don't we come up with something that could be affordable, affordable being something around $250,000 as a for-sale product. And we came up with a program, we came to the city, showed it to them, and people thought that this would be a good fit. And then we found out from the community that maybe this was not what they thought was an appropriate use in the community. Fine, we had no problem with that. We went back to the drawing board. We came up with what we thought would be a better use in terms of y'all. Not me, but y'all. And that was maybe a townhouse development. Upscale, $450,000, $500,000 townhomes. Not unlike the townhomes that were overlooked. So we had our planning commission, threw that out, and that didn't get a warm reception either with the local folks. And I'm not here to contest anything with you guys. I want to do something that you guys applaud, that's good for the community, that we can all get around. And you can believe it or not, but that's my heart. So having said that, we were approved 4-1 in planning for the townhomes. Since then, I've listened again to the community. To y'all, to Don, to Jeannie, to the people here that, have the right to be vocal about this. And we are compassionate to that. Now, you can believe that or not, but I assure you, we are compassionate to that. Having said that, we went back again. And what I heard at the last meeting was, Johnny, could you please entertain doing a single family project up here? That's what I heard. Instead of the townhomes, instead of the designer cottages, we would appreciate it if you would come back with a single family product. We have agreed to that as a team with Integrity Development. So tonight, we're here to say we're going to reduce the density to 4 units an acre. 4 units an acre, which is what I was told you all wanted, and I'm good with that. So that'd be 56 units, Madam Mayor. 56 units on a 14-unit community, 14 times 4 is 56. These will be all single-family homes. That won't be cheap, but, that's what you get when you reduce the density. The price has to go up, guys. And it would reduce the traffic, per your request. We still will bring in the entrance off of 515, which was a big request, council members, from the citizens. We respect that. And we're here to compromise and hope to bring a little unity to this project. So I'm here to answer any questions. By the way, like I said, last time we had our planning commission meeting, the rules were 10 minutes. 10 minutes for me, 10 minutes for the opposition. I said, no, let's go as far as everybody wants to go. You can talk till midnight tonight if you want to. I'm here to listen. And I did listen, and hopefully what we're proposing tonight is what you guys requested, and we can all be good neighbors and get this thing moving. A few bullet items I'd like to say is even 56 homes will take 4 to 5 years to accomplish. So you'd be looking at 12 to 15 units an acre. So it's not like 56 homes are going to be built in 6 months and there's going to be traffic coming out of it. No. I envision this thing to be very similar to what Overlook was, or is, pardon me. When Overlook first came on board, I'm sure there was a lot of opposition to that. We don't want all the traffic coming down Depot, we don't want all these new people. That turned out pretty good. I think everybody would agree with that. This is going to be a very similar project, and I think the people that will be moving here will be a value add to this community. In fact, I know they will. Just like they were at Overlook. We had an open forum with anybody in this town at the Comfort Inn. We rented out the room up there, the conference room. We had 45 people come in. The majority of them were from Overlook. And I don't know if anybody is from Overlook tonight to oppose this. And they're adjacent to the site. They live, their boundary line is right there. So, again, we're here not to dictate, to make a big bag of money and run out of Dodge in the middle of the night. That's not how I operate. That is not how I operate. We will bring value to this town. I promise you that. At the end of the day, you will be very pleased with what we did up there. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Hasty. Okay, did we have somebody sign up for the opposition?
We were told we didn't have to sign up for public hearing.
You were told you didn't have to sign up?
That's
I signed up 3
correct.
times ahead before it was canceled, and then was told we didn't have to.
So do we have a?
No, we were told by Chris that we did not have to sign up for public hearing. You just come here and when called, you know, when they opened it, you go up and speak. I have that email on that.
Yeah, that's what they told us
too.
to.
Okay, I don't have a list of who wants to speak. Do we know how many do want to speak? There are 4 of you? Is that correct? So you're gonna basically get 2.5 minutes apiece. Are y'all okay with that?
Well,
No, I'm giving up mine
I'll go
then.
back.
I'm sorry.
I'll give up my space so Donna can speak in my place.
Okay,
Okay, so,
Donna, Mayor,
yes.
Mr. Valley, our city attorney, stated that if we want to extend time, the council can do that, but they also have to extend the same amount of time to Mr. Hastings. So I make the motion that if we need to extend time, that we allow them to speak so that they can have their voices heard.
So how, do you have an?
We can't hear you back here.
Do you have an ideal as to,
We got a motion on the floor.
and I have a question.
We got a motion on the floor.
And that's when you have the question, after the motions are on the floor. So I have a first and a second, now I have a question.
We do vote.
No, there's an opportunity for questions. So do you know how long, are you?
Can I ask a question first? May I ask a question?
Yeah, what is the
Do
question?
you want to get up here? Can I,
You can.
okay. The question, turn it in. The question that I have is that this is a new plan, and with all due respect to Mr. Hastings, this has not gone before your planning commission. So the recommendation that the planning commission put forward was for something entirely different. It had a recommendation regarding, you know, like the shuttle bus and emergency vehicles and how the layout was going to be done. This hasn't gone before the planning commission, so how are you going to hear it tonight? I mean, this is all new to us. I'm taking notes. Nobody, you know, like I said, with all due respect, he says that he's spoken with us. Nobody from their group has spoken to me in months. So if he took my comments, he took them from a planning commission meeting. This is the first time that we've even heard that they were reducing the amount of, you know, homes in there. And the fact, it concerns me that you would vote on this when the planning commission has not. And I mean, it's brand new to me. Anybody in the public, have y'all heard that there was a change?
Nope.
I've never spoken to the man.
I just
Me
think in all
neither.
fairness, if you're gonna go by what you normally go by, then it should be heard by the planning commission first and then come before the city council, which is your normal procedure.
Johnny, you want to respond to that? I think what Sonny's saying is he's willing to reduce the units in the density. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think it's the plan that
But
he
let Johnny
said.
explain why he said what he said.
We would like to apply for the same zoning, but agree to a lower density. We'd like to get the same zone tonight, but we will agree to city council to agree to the final plat. We're just,
So basically, you're saying that you'll not be able to get a building permit until you come back with the final.
that is correct, the city council approves.
So you're asking for the same amount of density that you had to the planning commission?
That is correct. We're trying to, again, in the spirit of compromise and unity, we're trying to do what was requested in planning, and hopefully this helps.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. My question is still, do you all need 5 minutes each, 10 minutes each? Do we have any kind of, is any of it collaborative?
Why don't we just put that here and see how many people think less than all 2 minutes, just like they do the other, 2 to 5, and 3 to whatever, 3 minutes. If we need more, if more people think that, just take.
Well, we have 3 people that have asked to speak at this point. So do we want to give them 5 minutes?
15 at the most.
Go ahead and you speak.
So 5 minutes each? 15
5 minutes each.
So do you want to
I'll
just
do it after y'all do.
revise your
Okay.
motion for a 5 minute each
Are
person?
you gonna speak?
Sure.
Thank you.
That, you know, the first 5 minutes to speak, and it's more than the 3 people who choose to speak, that we would allow that as well. And give Johnny Hastings the same amount of time after he was out.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor? Mike?
Yes.
Harold? Robbie? Rhonda?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay, and so Ms. Thompson, would you like to go first? Sure.
Madam Mayor, if I may, would the opponents please tell us where they live? They live in the city or the county?
Well, I'm going to ask him to start with their name too. So if you don't mind, just so we.
We live here, not like you.
Ms. Thompson, I live in Blue Ridge.
Yeah, what
Donna
is that?
Thompson,
You live in the city or outside?
I am 2 houses outside the city limits, and I am serviced by,
Can you hear her, Nathan, Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't really do it.
is that good? Okay, I'm doing this under petition, and I still don't think this is the appropriate way to follow. You know, you're setting a precedent here for everybody else that comes before this commission. We were opposed to high density. You know, my notes are completely messed up now on what I was going to speak on because he completely changed the game and we didn't have any knowledge of that, has not gone through planning. We were opposed to high density. I would like to say one thing. I'll open up with this. He talks about being good neighbors and to get this project going. I'm all for people being able to do business. I'm all for people owning property and being able to do within the law what, you know, zoning and land use and everything allows them to do. But if we want to talk about being good neighbors, it's disingenuous to say that you met with the community when you didn't meet with the community. And I'll start with that one. You had a meeting with the residents from Overwood. Nobody else. Ken Baker is your broker that you're affiliated with. Mr. Baker made contact with me early on in this because he knew that we had a government group that was highly in discussion on this project. And what happened with that was he started making contact with me to sort of, I think, make me understand the project better and maybe to get me to sway my opinion on high density, which didn't happen. But what Mr. Baker did was he reached out to me and said, we're going to have a meeting with the community and I would like your help. Can you help me find a location? I'm the one that made the recommendation of the hotel to him. I'm relatively new here and that was like the only place that I knew. So what happened was he said, I'll let you know. And I said, just let me know, I'll promote it to our government group. I didn't hear anything. I followed up with him and said, what's going on? And he said, we're having scheduling problems. I followed up a second time and asked him, and he said, we're having scheduling problems. The third time I followed up with him, he told me that they were too busy, they were not going to be able to put it on their schedule. So if anybody had any questions, they could call. 2 days after that, I was told that Mr. Hunt made it back from his month-long vacation in Florida. He's an Overlook resident. He's also now a member of the Planning Commission. And Mr. Hunt had advised that they had a meeting the night before with the developer. So that meeting was exclusive to the Overlook residents. And we have Overlook residents here tonight. Maybe they can tell us if anybody else was invited because we were not. It was closed off. So if you want to talk about good neighbor, we'll start with that one. We were opposed to high density. We have traffic concerns. We do have traffic concerns. I'm not sure why they wanted to push everything through the College Street neighborhood. It's a small, historic, quaint neighborhood. We need to protect it. You know, the last that the Planning Commission recommended was that emergency vehicles and the shuttle bus would go through. Well, you know, if I live in College Street, and I do know, I have friends that live on College Street, I wouldn't want a shuttle bus going by my house all day, you know, every day. It's just not something that I think should happen. That should go out on the highway. We talked about Highway 515, if they would allow curb cuts. Mr. Hastings told the planning department that they had a letter of approval from GDOT, correct? Okay, well, I've spoken with an engineer at GDOT, my husband and I have on 3 different occasions, and they have told us that they have never received a site plan from the developer, so no approvals have been given. I don't have his name with me tonight, but I can provide it to you. I spoke with him today at 1 p.m. We have an email back from him that says that nothing has been presented to them as far as a site plan to be able to approve those curb cuts, because when this engineer gets them, he said that he has to put the information together and then it goes downtown, and that has not happened.
Go ahead.
The current infrastructure issues was something else that we brought up to the Planning Commission. And I know everybody says that this is misinformation and all that, but I'll tell you what I'm hearing, and I have people talking to me all the time. We need to have, I encourage you to meet, have like a town hall or something with the citizens to talk about the water department, because this is what I've heard. There's a bell press, I think that's the name of it, that the part in the sewer that is a $1 million part that needs to be replaced. It's nearing the end of its lifespan, I guess. It's $1 million is what somebody told me that it's going to cost. We're still experiencing 35 to 40% water loss, and that means current customers have higher bills because of that. I pay more for my water here than I did in Metro Atlanta, and I did an acre of Bermuda water frequently. You know, I would like to know why you've asked for some of the allotment back from the County Water Authority. That tells me that you're nearing your EPA limit of what you can pull from the river. So those are questions that we have. You don't have to address them tonight, but I think the citizens have a right to know the answers to that question. The other one was that we suggested putting a moratorium on development building for the current, I know that you've got it within the central business district right now, and above a certain height, I believe, is the road restriction limit. But I would like to see this council review your zoning and land use. I don't think that's too much for the citizens to ask of you. I've looked at the zoning map for, especially for this strip down 515, like between like the Burger King and the Chevy dealer, right down in through there. The zoning doesn't even make sense from one side of the road to the other. So that really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them and their responsibility to the citizens. So I'm kind of at a loss here. You know, I guess we just want you to make the right decision, the best decision. I do not think it's fair to vote on this tonight because we've had, what, 3 minutes to hear this and be able to respond to it. In closing, you know, the one question, I had 2 questions, and one of them was,
Okay, Dawn, your 5 minutes is up.
okay,
Can
well,
I ask her a question?
You can.
So, you know, my 6 or 8 months I've been on city council, everybody says, somebody told me this, somebody told me that. I wanna know who told you the sewer? Tell us the person's name that's telling you all this information that the sewer needs $1 million. Give us the name.
I'm not giving the name publicly.
So,
I don't.
so
I'm
nobody
not-
really told you.
No, somebody did tell
Well,
me.
then you need to give that.
Well, you don't tell all your sources.
You're supposed to know that, I thought, sir, pardon me.
Do what?
You should know that. You're on the city council, you know that.
I guess the easier question would be, is that fact or not fact?
We do need a new belt press. The one that we have is wearing out,
Yeah,
and that
there
will
you
happen
go.
at some point. I don't know that it's quite $1 million, but there's a, as you know, you were at, I think, the meeting for the GDOT application, which is $5 million worth of upgrades to our sewer plant, which includes a lot of.
Mayor, I can speak it into $5 million, that's what Becky was over our utility
Well,
department said.
we've had several prices on it, so it's, but anyway, my answer is we've got about $5 million of expenses over there at some point for a sewer plant that does need a lot of upgrades, so. And a belt press is one
Mayor,
of
you
those.
said we had several prices on it. Where did the prices range?
Well, they were from 450 to about 800,000, I think, on a couple. So,
You wanna give her your 5 minutes to show it?
well, 450.
You wanna give her your
800, I
5
think,
minutes?
Depending on the sizes.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Ms.
And
Thompson.
remember, we've got to upgrade some things in the sewer plant when we do.
Yes, as I said, we have a $5 million.
Donna, she's giving you 5 minutes.
application out there, so.
No.
Who is the next person coming up?
She's giving her 5 minutes right here.
Okay, so you're gonna give yours to her?
Mayor, I would just like to say, so that everyone understands about the sewer plant upgrades and the belt press, regardless of whether Mr. Hastings' development happens, this stuff will have to happen.
Oh, I understand that.
There will be surcharge and impact fees if he reduces his development that will contribute at current surcharge and impact fees. He'll contribute $56,000.
Are you for this or are you against this? I'm confused on speaking here.
She works for the city.
I'm in the utility department, so I'm not speaking for or against, I'm just giving you factual information.
And she's just telling you that those upgrades have to happen. whether
They're gonna
Mr.
happen
Hastings'
regardless of
property
his development.
goes
They were
forward
already
or
in the
not.
works before we ever talked.
So where was the 55,000 that you were talking about?
If he does his development.
Then you're
there-
speaking for him.
No, I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm giving you a piece of factual information.
And
You can do with
she's
it what
going
you
to
like.
speak at the end of this
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay,
so.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's, the lady that, what is your name, ma'am?
Cindy, I'm giving it
Cindy
to
is
Donna.
gonna give her time to Ms. Thompson. And I'm trying to set this timer. Are you still there?
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not, to answer your question, I'm not gonna present publicly my sources because I have too many people contacting me as a result of the government group, and it's not fair to them unless I tell them, okay? I can tell you that they are knowledgeable people. I just don't want to put them in a position before I get there, okay? And I think that, I hope that you respect that. I try to deal
As
with
long as
facts.
they're telling the truth, I have no problem.
Okay, well, I think we just clarified that we're telling the truth, right?
Yeah, but we also just talked about, we've got to do this, whether we do this development or not, has no bearing on the development.
Well, okay, I can bring it back to that.
It's already a proven fact. She's already been told that it's $1 million and that's all she brought up.
Okay, that's fine. So here's, The other points that I wanted to make is, we were curious why College Street was being singled out as routing the traffic to College Street, because it could also go through the Overlook neighborhood. Nothing was ever said about that. Is Overlook a private community, or is that a private road?
Private, that has nothing to do with this land or development.
Well, I understand that, but does College Street have anything to do with this land? That's our question.
That's public street.
Okay, and the streets in Overlook are not public, is that correct? Okay, that's fine. We appreciate that. The other thing that I would just like to say in regard, I mean, it's really hard to come up here and try to, we want to be good neighbors, and I try to give all my information. Mr. Fitz and I had a conversation very recently where I said, you know, if I need to correct something, I'm more than happy to do it, and I did it for him. Some information that had been put out that was incorrect. I like to deal with facts, and I do a lot of research on this stuff. So while you're talking about, you know, being forthcoming, I asked a question of all council members and mayor, and I got responses back first from Mr. Panner and then Ms. Haight, and then I got it a little bit later through another communication from Mr. Fitz. But I had asked the members, if you or a family member have any affiliation with Mr. Hastings or his development, either direct or indirect. It's a question that a lot of cities and counties ask each time that they do a rezoning like this. You've probably heard those questions asked at council meetings. And we asked those questions, and yet there were half the members that I sent them to didn't respond. So if we want to talk about people being upright and forthcoming and misinformation, I would like to end up with this, and I appreciate your time. One of the things that was told to me was that there was a lot of misinformation going around. The first point that was put forward was there was a petition against the tiny homes, which I think that you and Mr. Baker saw. It was posted on the Blue Ridge community page, and it was posted by Dana Hunt, who since that point in time has now been assigned to the Planning Commission. A lot of people probably don't know that. He actually ended up voting for this development in Plan B, not Plan C. He's a member of Overlook. Mr. Panner's a member of Overlook, and they were in the meetings. They were in the meetings that we didn't, the rest of the community didn't get an ability to do. But to go back to that petition, when it was signed, when you want to talk about misinformation, there was a comment that came up, and it said, you know, you need to be aware of what C2 zoning can bring, you know, what category it falls into, what businesses can be built there. And so he listed them. And this person listed, and he started out, and he said, adult businesses, campgrounds, convenience stores with gas pumps, cesspool builders, sewage treatment facilities, shooting range, and at least 100 others. It's all available on the city website. I had a conversation with a council member, and I mentioned this to them, and I started off with the adult businesses, and they said, oh, no, that's not even allowed in our city charter. So you have a member of your planning commission that is citing information that is not correct. Here's a copy out of the thing. I can give you the whole thread if you want it. It was Mr. Squad gave me information. Because I responded back to him and said, you know, it almost comes across as a veiled kind of warning. I've also heard accounts that council members were contacted by members of the developer's team saying, you know, we're going to build on this property regardless, and if we don't build residential, we're going to build commercial. Which I thought was kind of, I guess to me it kind of comes across as a strong arm tactic to use, because all of a sudden it started going through the community that, oh my God, we're going to build, you know, good commercial something there, and we don't want commercial. So I appreciate the extra time. Any other questions? We'll talk to you after questions.
Not right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the extra time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean?
Okay.
Wow. My notes are based on where the proposed development stood with 83 homes in R3 development. So my notes are kind of based on that. I'm just going to kind of hunt out of that. It'd be good to ask a question. So 56 single-family homes, are those freestanding? They will be. Freestanding homes, 4 per acre. Do you have a price point planned at this point?
Yeah, you're talking $500,000.
Okay. Again, my name is Gene Middleton. I don't know if I said so. My wife Margaret Tilly Middleton and I live at 16 Summit Street, corner of Summit and College Streets, very close to the proposed site. Margaret grew up in this home, and I grew up in Copper Hill. My folks ran the newspaper over there. Margaret's parents were involved in business and a phone company here. We met at this house 48 years ago. They've been married going on 43 years. In recent years, we invested a lot of money renovating the house. It was built by the Ryan family back in 1946 and purchased by the Tillys in 1956. So just to give you some history. We moved back here full-time in May of 2019 after 41 years in the Atlanta area. And we hope to stay here from now on and pass the property on to our kids, and grandkids, all of whom, like us, hold this home and this town near and dear. So I guess another question for Johnny, with the new plan, is there still going to be a shuttle bus involved?
Well, we thought that was a value add to the community. You tell us, Dean, what you want.
Well, we'd rather not see it go down College Street. Is there another plan? Is there going to be College Street access with the community?
There'll be a second entrance coming off it. The main entrance is going to be off of 515 for your request.
So the main entrance comes off 515?
Correct.
But no College Street or?
There will be traffic on College Street, the public road.
Auto vehicles, and there's no way to prevent that?
Public road.
Yeah.
So what happens to the emergency and shuttle bus only? Because that was the recommendation for the planning committee.
That's the recommendation of the planning commission presented, and that'll be read in the
Okay, thank you.
What about the possibility of R1 delivery, or excuse me, R1 zoning and R1 neighborhood? Lower density still, is that a possibility?
4 units an acre, Dean.
So that's still R3?
I believe that's the zoning we're requesting tonight, but it won't be more than 50. You're the one who told me to do this, Jim. You told me, you said, Johnny, can you go single family?
Well, I said, yeah, can you go R1 development? Lower density.
Single family, Jim, single family.
So it sounds like you're still at a higher degree of density. Okay, I think that brings to mind some concerns. I think there will just be a lot of traffic. There's not room on College Street for the kind of traffic you're talking
I
about.
concur with you, and I'm completely sensitive to your point. Let's assume that someone wants to go to Walmart, Ingles, go home to Atlanta, go north. Are they going to come down College Street to do it?
Probably not. Who knows?
Probably not.
I know maybe do
I
a
think
survey and ask
to your point, though, Steve, I think it's important that the gated subdivision. Here's why. Otherwise, people are using the word. And that is not.
Is it going to be gated on both sides?
I think we can do that, too.
Again, my notes got pretty scrambled as a result of the change, but I didn't share the same concerns with Donna that I see a plan. Normally, you have a process, and it doesn't seem like it's going through that process. I appreciate your willingness, Johnny, to reduce the units, but I think we need to go back to proper procedure here. Go back to planning committee, commission, with a plan. That would seem to me to be the thing to do. That's all I have at this point.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, as long as they do not get a building permit before they come back with the final plan to the council, do you have a problem with that?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah. I think you're violating your own procedure.
Yeah, I do too.
We have a process. It's not.
5 minutes is up, unless
That was 5 minutes.
Thank you all.
Do we have someone else who wants to speak?
My name is Kirk Williams. I live in Fannin County. I don't understand how you guys can be voting on this because it's totally contrary to what his original plans were. It was approved by the planning committee. It was brought to you. That was the procedure. Now, he has changed the plans. Does that not mean it needs to go through the planning committee again? I, as an individual homeowner here, have never talked to this man. I've never met this man. None of my neighbors have. I don't know of anyone that's talked to him, except maybe Don. And I just feel like we're left out in the cold. I mean, this is kind of like what went on with the county for 4 years. We're in the cold. We don't have a voice. We feel like we don't have a voice. And that's not good. Because like Mr. Fitz said, you guys are here for the betterment of our community. The sewer system won't handle it. The water system won't handle it. I spoke with GDOT today. There was no approval for a cut-through. So that's a lie. And if you want to say something, his name was Brad, didn't catch his last name.
We've got an engineer fixing to speak with you.
Okay. And he has the approval?
I'll let him talk.
Okay. Well, I thought you knew about it. Well, I met a couple ladies from at Home Depot, and I just said, she was taking pictures of the mountains, and I said, tourist, eh? And she goes, yeah. She said, how do you like it here? I love it here. But a lot of times we don't have, our voice isn't heard by the administration. And I said, we changed that in the county. And I didn't bring up anything about what's going on today, and they just said, we heard there was 14 acres and there was going to be a bunch of houses built on it, and I said, that's what they're discussing. She said, well, this is a beautiful community. We love this community. We're from Savannah. We've been coming here for years. And now we're looking at a hotel and a parking lot. She said, this isn't the beautiful city that we came to. It's not the beautiful city that I bought. I don't want things to change the way where I came from. I want things to kind of stay the same a little bit. If infrastructure won't handle it, we don't need to do it. We need to fix what our problems are now. Pay the $1 million. Get this fixed. Let's get it done. And collect taxes from all the businesses. That's all I ask. Thank you very much.
You live in the city or in the county?
I live in the county. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I can't hear everything like really good, so I don't know when y'all stop talking. So, the infrastructure problem that's going on through is, the saying again, all over the water, sewer plant, and the information keeps getting out there, that we have a failing infrastructure problem in the city. That is a false statement. We do not have failing infrastructure problems. We have, when we pass the water and the sewer plant, so we know what it is.
I'm talking about the city workers out there fixing water breaks every 5 minutes. That's what I'm speaking of. There's not a person, I'm speaking. I have the floor, please. I'm speaking. You asked the question, I'm trying to answer the question. The question is, I'm trying. We see people and people laugh. It's a joke. There's water breaks being fixed all the time. Sewer problems being fixed all the time. Now, if that's not failure, I don't know what failure is.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So infrastructure problems, the equipment, and what's under the ground is totally different. We do have a high water loss rate. That is the only real issue we have. And unless you want to donate about $30 million to the city to replace all the water lines under the road, it's physically, financially impossible for us to replace all the water lines under the city. We have terracotta lines all over the city, and we fix those as they break. The state does not have any grants out there that's going to give us that much money to fix all the water lines that they it's impossible. So we fix them as we do. We have a water loss company that comes around and traces our water losses. They have equipment we don't have, and we work on that as it goes as we go. And there is a certain percentage of water loss to be expected by the state or by the EPD. Ours is higher than to be expected. It is full disclosure. But we do not have the money to go to replace all the water lines unless you got the money you want to give us to do it. It's impossible.
But you're going to add more to it. You're going to put more stress on that water system. I have the floor. I am speaking, Mr. Fitz, please. Please don't speak over me. I said there are companies out there that can blow material into those water lines to make those water lines last longer. It's not all that expensive, but Why didn't people think about this? How long have you been on the board? Did you not think about this 20 years ago, 10 years ago?
Just to be clear, sir.
Well, you've known about it, it's not getting fixed. But you want to build more and put more stress on it now. And also what I have is, I have the county water, which is the city water. I pay extra money because of all the leaks and what you're talking about. If you don't have the money, then stop taking my money.
But listen, here's what you're not understanding, is adding additional water service lines to our water system does not affect who's existing on the line. The only issue that people have with the water system is based on elevations of where they're at in the city. Regardless of what breaker we have, it doesn't affect the pressure or anything else. We can talk to our engineers, Becky was our public works director. She's there, she can even talk more about it, but it does not affect the pressure on any of the existing lines.
Well, I guess Mr. Gaddis, that used to be on this council and be on the water board, was all wrong then.
Again, I don't know, Mr. Gaddis is not here to speak, if it is, he's welcome to get up and speak.
Breaks do affect our pressure. If we do have water breaks, that does make a difference in the pressure of that
Sure
line.
does.
And Becky is going to speak to some of these water questions. So if we can just get to that point, if we have anybody else that has opposition, if they'd like to come up, and then she'll address some of those things, Mr. Williams.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Williams, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you move here from?
I moved here from the Midwest,
Okay.
but I lived in Florida for a while.
Did you live in cold areas where the weather affected your water issues?
Well, I was raised in Chicago, so I'd say,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it was
a-
pretty
that's a
cold.
cold
But
area.
we didn't have water breaks. We didn't have sewer breaks. I don't know.
And maybe you had newer lines and things like that too, and they had
Could
bigger
be.
replacement programs. So we're gonna talk about some of that.
We've got a problem. We know it's a problem. Let's get it fixed.
Sir, would
Yes.
you like to come up? And did you raise your hand to
Can I
speak?
ask one quick question? Are we going against what your attorney said at the last meeting, in the December meeting? When he said that if a plan changed, they had to go back to the planning commission?
Well, I'll go over that too. Let Mr. Barrett speak first and then.
Thank you.
My name is Marion Merritt. I'm on 37 College Street, so I'll be directly affected. I'm kind of surprised about that College Street is going to be used for traffic now. The other one was kind of okay, because you can have the shuttle. The shuttle would have been better than a bunch of traffic. But it's not too bad. I'm pretty happy with what Johnny's doing. He's going in the right direction, but I think we should have gone through the proper process of notifying everybody, because I had no idea that it got changed. So
None of us did.
I would like, maybe go through the proper process, the planning commission, and let people speak. And there's some great speakers in here. I wish they could speak like that. That's all I wanted to say. I think we should go through the proper process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Donna, can I say one thing, since his property borders me within about
You
30?
need to come up and speak into the microphone. So the lady that does our minutes, she can't hear it, James, without it being into the microphone. So we want to make sure we know every word you said.
My name's James Spitz, Donna's my sister-in-law, Nathan's my son. Never met this fella here, but I think he's going in the right direction also. I'd rather have housing. Eventually, something's coming in. This property's not going to stay vacant. And I lived here, I just turned 69 Christmas Day, and I've lived here for 69 years. I was born on top of the hill at Brooks Hospital. It was a 3-bed hospital up here on Top Street. I lived here since. Grew up on Top Street. But I think he's going in the right direction. I'd rather have it than service stations and convenience stores and that type of thing. I'd rather have housing, nice housing. Now his property borders my property. I live up on the 4-lane. And his property comes within about 30 feet of my front door. So if anybody's got a gripe, I think I would have a gripe. But I think he's being reasonable and trying to get out to everybody. And I think we ought to kind of work with the guy. The 4-lane was built for the prosperity of Blue Ridge. My dad and Herman Davis, Duck Davis, which was the Chevrolet dealer in Blue Ridge. Herman was in 61 or 62, Duck was the mayor. My dad was mayor pro tem. And I watched them build the 4-lane from the high school, from the grammar school. I'd stand up on the hill, I was going to grammar school, But I asked Dad about it. He said, that's really, son, for the prosperity, the people of Blue Ridge. Everybody's having to move off to Atlanta, Marietta, and other places. The kids are, after they finish school, and they're having to go to school and go get jobs in other places. And we're trying to fix the community where everybody can stay here and work and not have to move off to other places and work. We're going to try to keep them home. So I think everything's going to be fine, and I think the city will give him the right approval and go through the right regulations if you give them a chance. And like I say, I've lived here for 69 years, and I'm still alive and well today. And Thanks grew up with me right here. Jeff and all of us, we've grown right here.
But not 69 though.
You're close, aren't you? Anyway, I'd rather have housing than have the other stuff. I think it would come up there.
Well, spoken down, I didn't know you were gonna speak.
I didn't know you was listening.
Okay, anyone else in opposition?
the DOT cut.
Just a youngster, 69 years
Anyone
old.
else in opposition?
I'd like to
Just
ask
a youngster.
Is it opposition?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Sutton. I have property on College Street, and I'm very kind of agreeable as well to moving it down to 56 single family to the right direction. I remain very concerned about College Street. I mean, that is a very narrow road. It's a very narrow drive. I think everybody in this room should, when they leave here tonight, go up toward the overlook and make that left-hand turn on College. And go up that drive and see what you think about it. See how comfortable we are driving through it. I don't think too many people would. And I'd hate to see 56 units of homes being able to drive down through there. Because basically, this, that's 112 cars. That could be very busy going back and forth. And it's way more traffic than that particular road should ever encounter. So I would approve your development, but I do not endorse access to College Street. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Okay, any other opposition?
I do have some comments when everybody's done that I want to make.
We've got one more.
Okay, we got two more.
Okay.
And then we're gonna close the public hearing as far as opposition, and then there's other conversation, and we're gonna have a staff analysis also,
I am Margaret Tilly Middleton. I'm a native of Blue Ridge. My parents, my grandparents have been here since the 1930s. My home is on, our home is on Summit and College Street. And we are going to be directly impacted by development. We've been verbal about it. My father was on the planning commission, well, he was on the city council. Went back when Robert Thomas had wanted it rezoned. He voted against that. We do not think that it should have ever been C2. But it was. We are in favor of a zoning for R1, low density, nice homes. I don't think anybody here doesn't think that, thinks that we should not grow in Blue Ridge. I'm born, raised in Blue Ridge. We went for 40 years in Atlanta, and we know what that's like. But no one thinks that we should just stop development at all. But we're in favor of smart development. And I don't think that, large development is emptying out onto College Street for work. I can remember riding with my bicycle on College Street when it was a dirt road. And it's just, it's not appropriate right now for a large development. Both Gene and I have advocated, a lot of neighbors have advocated for an R1 development, single-family homes.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, 1 minute, just 1 minute.
Do you remember when Mr. Thomas owned it?
Yes.
What it was on?
I do. It was agricultural.
RA, agriculture.
Yes, I do remember that, and I remember my mother, who was very advocate for this community.
And part of his rezoning was, and he put a sign up there that says Hog Farm Company, which he could have done, because it was RA. Just like right now, and I had no, you know, I'm not even totally sure when it got rezoned commercial. Is,
Well, 30-something years ago.
yeah. So it was basically changed or rezoned due to the fact, because they did not want, the residents up there did not want agricultural or anything like that.
Yes,
They
and
felt like
I
it was
do
better suited,
remember, and I
better
don't
suited
know,
for commercial.
I don't know if Harold was on the commission then, but on the city council then, but I do know that my dad always voted against a commercial establishment there. There should have never been, never. But I also know that it's sat there for 30 seconds.
So you,
And my concern is that there will not be access 5:15 because of Georgia, because of the state. And that's my concern is that it will end up being routed on.
But you realize we can put restrictions on that.
Yes.
It has to, they have to have that entrance on 5:15
Absolutely,
before it's approved.
absolutely.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Or Ms. Robinson, I'm sorry. I've known you so long, I guess. Sorry about that.
1 minute.
Yes.
I'm fixing to blow your mind because I don't live in Blue Ridge. I don't live in Dannon anymore. I live in Ducktown, Tennessee. So
It's a growing little town.
I want to make a point. It doesn't matter how long somebody's been here. It doesn't matter really if they live in the city limits or in the county limits. This is a matter of government. And what I see going down here tonight is distressing because process, procedure is key. It's key to good government anywhere. As we're seeing in our nation, very, very disturbing stuff going down. And process is being ignored. But the man comes in, I have an opinion on this development, but I'm not going to give it now. I'm talking about government and process. The man comes in at the last minute and says, here, I've changed the whole game. Y'all ought to be really happy. I'm being a good neighbor. Now let's get it on. And I was actually afraid that y'all were going to vote on it one way or another tonight, which would be totally improper, totally against good process and procedure. It should go right back to the beginning and start it that way. See plans, put something on paper. For heaven's sake, you can't just go, I don't know what your plans were, but I was getting the impression that it was possible that you could actually vote on this thing, or that he wanted you to one way or another, and which would have been crazy in my way of thinking. So, and when y'all ask people, well, where you're from, and somebody asked that man where he lived before, does it matter?
It was about the water. I wondered if he lived south
Whatever.
or second.
But I'm getting
There's
the
a reason
impression
I asked him that.
that it's limited to people. In Ducktown, we have no grocery store. So this is my shopping place. So it concerns me what y'all do with this place because, oh my gosh, traffic is getting bad. And I used to laugh at that because I'm in Tampa, Hillsborough County, which don't no traffic. That's traffic back there, bad. But it's getting bad up here. But it matters to Ducktown people because this is where we come to do our business, to go to the doctor, to do everything. So don't take the idea that, oh, you gotta live in Blue Ridge or Canyon County, where do you live, where are you from, and all that. It matters to all of us that are living in this area.
I lived in Copper Hill, I lived in Copper Hill for the 5th grade, on Utah.
Good.
And I do have to commend you for what
I
you're
know.
saying,
It's
because
good.
I do agree with the correct concept. There is so much that the public doesn't realize that's going on with Chip and Rich, ethical, legal.
Does that make you good?
Mayor, I mean.
We can't hear him.
Okay, so.
That's another thing, one final thing, please use your microphones, put them right up your mouth. I've got a hearing aid, and I still have problems, and I know other people are too. So use those microphones.
Okay, so do we have anyone else in opposition that wants to speak?
That's what I heard. You can ask her, but that's what I heard.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
Could you tell us what he said about the unethical?
I didn't hear it out there. There'll be.
You didn't hear what
minutes
Nathan
that
said?
come out. So as far as the public hearing, it is closed, but I do think we have some questions for probably Mr. Dyer, the engineer, probably Mr. Hastings, probably Becky Harkins. I know Mike has asked Becky Harkins to speak to infrastructure. And do we want to start with Becky first, probably, Reed? Would that be okay with you? So, Ms. Harkins?
Yeah, we gotta allow Johnny equal amount of time.
Oh, Johnny, would you like?
That's fine.
I can reopen the public hearing.
No,
if-
let Reed Dyer talk.
Okay, and I will go ahead and address, I had sent a message to our attorney since this had been reduced, because I didn't know it had been reduced till I walked into this meeting either tonight. And he said, basically, if it was being reduced, we would not have to go through, we could, if we want to vote, if it is increased, we cannot vote, but if we are wanting to vote and it being reduced, we're okay with being able to vote at that point.
That's opposite of what he said last in December.
That was if it was increased.
No, it wasn't.
No, he's gonna reduce it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna reduce
I
it.
asked him that question, and that was the answer I got, so. So, and I'm not sure, do you want to have him call him, or we're letting Becky talk about infrastructure since you know her, or I'll walk up to him. Becky, you want to go ahead and address infrastructure? Dawn, is it okay if I use the microphone? That's fine.
I'm Becky Harkins, I'm the Utility Director for City of Blue Ridge, and the first statement I want to make so that everybody's really clear, I do not have a position on this development. The only thing I'm here to do is tell you the facts as they stand in our utility system. And when we talk about capacity, we talk about the ability of our plants to serve water and sewer to the system. And we do have capacity at both the water and the sewer treatment plant to serve this development. The rehab at the sewer treatment facility will take place whether this development happens or not. And we do have water loss issues. Nathan Fitz mentioned those. I think Mr. Williams mentioned those. The city is working on those water loss issues. If you talk to other cities in mountainous areas, you will find that they have similar situations. Aging infrastructure is a growing problem among the water and sewer industry, and I agree that it needs to be worked on. It needs to be worked on diligently. But the fact remains that we cannot deny water and sewer service to somebody when we in fact do have the capacity to serve those. So if you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Hey Becky, will you tell them one other thing?
Yes.
So, part of the water loss issue, we have to resolve, taking on not by this administration, but previous administration, that we probably should take those that are nothing but all the problems and also water loss due to those specific communities. Will you address that a little bit?
Yeah, we do have communities that were taken over quite a few years ago that the water and sewer lines were not put into development standards. We do hold communities to higher development standards now. Inspection is done on a daily basis when new water lines are being put in. The city does not fund any portion of the water and sewer system for a new development. That is fully funded by the developer, and any impact that they may have on the water and sewer system between their development and the plant, they would be responsible for upgrading out of their own pocket. So when you talk about pressure issues, if this development were to impact pressures, for
those around them, then they would be responsible for upgrading that water line to make sure that didn't happen. So that's the purpose, and I think Reed can attest to that. We do flow tests prior to approving developments for water services. We check sewer mains for capacity. Things like that are done to make sure that if there's going to be any negative impact, that those developers pay for that upgrade, and that's not passed on to anybody else paying the water bill.
Becky, can I ask you a question? And this will kind of lead back to the questions I always wanted to know where you're living. Because I'm trying to get up to speed on the water. So roughly how many developments that are we furnishing water for outside of the city limits right now roughly?
I don't have the number of developments counted, but the number of customers that we furnish water to outside of the city limits is about 2,000 residential customers, right?
And water loss for these 2,000 customers outside the city limits versus water loss for our customers inside. Can you explain the difference? The percentages, roughly?
We can't quantify it exactly inside the city and out because we don't have all the individual areas zone metered. But we do have a large portion of water loss that we know about outside of the city limits, and it's in one of those subdivisions that we took over that's not up to development standards.
So one subdivision losses that has 200 to 300 homes is roughly what?
1.5 million gallons a month.
Loss. And what percentage of that is that?
It's about 10% of our water loss.
Of our whole water?
In one subdivision.
And also, we inherited the city of Mineral Bluff years ago, and that's an older system, and that still has a lot of asbestos lines, so we've been replacing as we can, but there's a lot of lines in the city of Mineral Bluff, and that was inherited by the city of Blue Ridge. When they gave up their charter, the city of Blue Ridge ended up taking over their water system, so.
And in the last 5 years, we spent just shy of $1 million replacing water lines around the town area. I think some of you people, especially if you're coming and taking College Street and those areas, you're aware that we've redone lines behind the courthouse, in front of the courthouse, over on East Main. A lot of our stuff in town has been upgraded.
Downtown areas, west and east Main Street have been done, but we still have areas to work on.
And also new developments, whether it be an individual home that's going in, whether it be a commercial development. So again, I'm not speaking to one particular development or any other large development. They have impact and surcharge fees that they pay to the city. Those fees go specifically for upgrades and maintenance to the water and sewer system. They're designated and can't be spent on anything else.
All right, thank you, Becky.
So Becky,
Yes, ma'am?
quick question. I know we have the moratorium right now on buildings in the city area, and we're looking at the structure, sewer, water, and how that would affect just the downtown area. And that question was supposed to come up with mostly sewer and the sewer plant, and we know that if we continue as we are, we're still missing out to be built because it's old. So we're also going to have to upgrade more property, correct? I mean, can you go to the city to describe that for this particular development? That's when you probably want to do money. Can you project practically like that?
Are you, Rhonda, I'm having trouble hearing you, but are you saying that you think this new development will cause us to have to do larger upgrades?
That's what I'm asking, yes. I mean, any growth that we're experiencing right now in the city.
No, we have, as far as our plant capacity and our EPD permit for the sewer plant, we have about 60% remaining capacity on the permit and the plant.
So we're only
for
at
the sewer.
40%.
So the belt press, no, the belt press we already have planned to order will more than handle this development. So it will not have an impact on the equipment that we already have plans to put in place.
We have to do it with Wayne County.
Yes, it will not change the size of the press
So we're only at 40% capacity.
at our sewer plant.
So, and water-wise, I know we're looking at new development cities, you know, for new development, we're going in,
Yeah.
impact fees, we're adding more things to that, roads, et cetera. But
Yes.
with this development, do you see any adverse effects for the city or any positive?
Rhonda, I can say that if they have any negative impact on the distribution lines, they may have to fund some upgrades to the water and sewer mains. And the other thing I would say is their impact fees would bring about $56,000 in if they do the reduced residential homes that they're talking about. If they were to stick with the original 80-something homes, it would bring about $81,000 into that infrastructure account.
How much would it cost the city?
It's not gonna cost the city anything. We don't fund any portion of developments. They're completely funded by the
And hey,
development.
also, Rhonda, it's good information to have that, I met with the Fannin County Water Authority last week. The water authority has the capacity to get grants and stuff that the city doesn't. And we do have to discuss some water loss and stuff with the water authority. And we are gonna work with them hopefully on some of these developments that if it's huge liability to the city, there's some avenues that maybe they can take over those and get some funding, some grants to take those over and minimize the city's losses on that. So we can talk more down on that.
So basically what we're looking at here is limiting the impact on with our water system, because we're up to these upgrades anyway. I think now what we have to look at is what our residents really want and how we move forward with that. Because obviously this is an issue that we now need to look at where we want our community to grow. So that's how I see it.
Hey, can I discuss, since it's for the water and sewer, the bond refund?
I wouldn't do this. This is a hearing for Mr. Hastings, so I would discuss that later on.
Excuse me, could I ask one quick question? What percentage of my water bill am I paying for the loss? Do you have any idea about that?
No, I don't know how much you're actually paying on your water bill as an individual, so I'd have to have those numbers in order to make that calculation.
Just an average?
I'm gonna step back so I'm not around anybody so you can hear me better. If you wanna check with other systems, you'll find that systems near to us are experiencing around about the same water loss. That's not uncommon, and yes, I mean, water and sewer is independent, so the only money we have is money funded from developments and water bills. Occasionally, we get grant money and we'll get 15 or 20% forgiveness on that grant, but tax dollars do not factor into water and sewer when you pay your city tax bill.
But the question was, what is,
Yeah.
how
And
much
then,
of...
like I said, if you want to call me, I will.
Sure, I would
I'll
appreciate
get
it.
your
Thank you very
numbers
much.
from you and we'll run those numbers.
Thank you.
So that you can have that information.
But you're on the county water system, so that may be a little more difficult for her to do because their county, they actually charge you a rate too. Profit on their end, so she'll have to give you a rough estimate per gallon or per
I
thousand or
appreciate it.
something like that.
So I feel like we need to move forward with this here. Personally, we're determined that one.
Okay, Reed, are you ready to come?
Okay. Reed will come up and speak.
Thank you.
Hey there,
Hey.
I'm Reed Dyer with Hayes James and Associates. Hey there, I'm Reed Dyer with Hayes James and Associates. We're here locally, we're an engineering, survey and planning firm, and we're hired by Mr. Hastings to look at this site. Currently, we have not submitted plans to DOT for permitting purposes. That was a question. But as the first step that we always do is we check with DOT to see what the access issues are, if any, on this site. The person that I deal with at GDOT is in Cartersville office. The District 6 Traffic Operations is Donovan Tucker, District Traffic Operations Manager. And I typically start with a phone call or an email about the site, and I get feedback from him. And in this particular project here, there is approximately 1,500 linear feet of frontage. And according to him and according to the maps that he sent me, there are 5 access points along this road frontage. One of them is a 40-foot access break, 3 of them are 30-foot access breaks, and there's 1 20-foot access breaks. And we can combine those in any way, shape, or form in order to submit plans for a commercial driveway, full turn movement on to 515. Again, those will have to be submitted for review and approval
but that is my understanding. Does that clear up any questions concerning that?
So it hasn't been approved? You
No, it
asked
has
for
not been
approval.
approved, but we have talked to DOT, and they have issued to us what is allowed along that.
Okay, we were just told that it was approved, that's all I knew. No
I
big
don't
deal.
believe that we ever said anything was approved, at least, but.
Pardon me?
I don't believe I said anything was.
I didn't
approved.
say you, I said your group.
Okay. And that's all I have on the front.
Quick question, so commercial versus residential, egress, regress, how many entrances could we have there?
All right, so typically, if I were doing this, I'd want to have a minimum of 40 to 60 feet. Okay,
So you'd have what, 2 commercial or?
probably 2 commercial,
How many residential?
possibly 3, but I think that it would be better served to combine those into a minimum of 2, maybe 1. Okay?
So with doing it, if you did it residential or commercial, would you consider all of those to be right turns? out?
Full turn movements.
Full turn movements.
Okay. It allows for full turn movement because there's a center turn movement. So,
That is true. That's
all
right.
right, and there's a similar project down the street towards Chevrolet Place that we did several years ago, and that was a 40-foot access cut, I believe, that was combined in 2 residentials were taken to converted to 1 40-foot access, in which we designed a decel lane with full turn movement.
So in your opinion, if this property stayed commercial, they would be able to get access to
Yes.
DOT?
Yes, they would.
But it would be the same also if they were residential.
Residential.
Right.
So if
The
either way, you're gonna have-
breaks are there,
Yeah.
and DOT has established that those breaks exist for that 1,500 linear foot.
So just so they understand, these are existing.
Yes, they're existing.
These aren't proposed, or we gotta create, so,
But-
people to say that we're lying about this, these are existing curb cuts.
There are.
Okay. So,
Okay.
nobody's lying.
Donovan Tucker from Ann,
Yes.
so I remember the name. What he told us was that you would have to apply for those. but
Correct.
Well, what you just said was that you could put them together in any form, shape,
Correct.
or fashion. He didn't tell us that. He told us exactly the opposite of that.
Well, his discussion to me was that those could be combined, since they're commercial, the 30-foot or 40-foots are considered commercial.
Well, the other thing that he told us
So
on
you
that
combine.
was, he said that anything on the property, because this was a learning experience for me, he said that anything that was on, like the parcel, how it's used, if it was 4 or under, like 4 units or under, it was considered residential. But anything over 4 units on the property is considered commercial. Because we repeated that to him, because, you know, that was interesting to me, because I didn't know that.
If you were a single-family home
Right.
by yourself, and you wanted to get a driveway cut from DOT,
Right.
they would consider that to be a residential cut.
Right.
If you're doing a development like Mr. Hastings, that would be more than just 4 individual homes by themselves, they would consider that to be designing into commercial standards, okay? Does that make, there's 2 different processes, so,
You just confused me when you were talking about a residential versus
the way the DOT looked at those access breaks is if it was 20 foot, it's considered residential. If it's 30 foot, it's considered to be at least, it would qualify for a commercial break. We can take those and combine them in any way, configuration to get a 40 or 60 foot, depending on the access he wants to design for this project. But the actual design plans we have not gotten to. Yes,
My
ma'am.
question, and Mike, you might be able to answer this, is why has Overlook not gained access to 515? They're the same type of development, R3,
I was
and
not
they
the
do not
developer.
have access to
I can
515
answer
yet.
that question.
I can
Cost.
answer too.
It costs.
It costs money.
It costs money. The cost for that. We've asked that question several
And
times.
Rita and I discussed the cost, and that's about a $75,000 to $150,000 expense.
It can be anywhere between, you know, I want to say anywhere between, I think, a neighborhood of 125 to 250 today.
Oh.
It just depends. I mean, I can't remember what that one was that was down by the Chevrolet place. That was 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember what the cost, but I think that was close to $100,000.
So Overlook is a similar type of development, but it is, it's blocked off there where there's
Right there,
an
it's blocked off.
access, but it's blocked
It's in the
off.
process of being turned over to the HOA. The HOA, we can, if we wanted to, go to GDOT and request that and pay for that. But our current developer, he did not have plans in that for a entrance exit.
And it was an access road before, just as this property has
Yeah.
those
Right.
access roads too, on this property.
Any other questions?
Just a couple of questions. That property is actually C2 now. It's
That's my
a
understanding.
C2
Correct.
property.
Correct.
And I know that the concern seems to be with most of the folks here is the access to College Street. That seems to be the biggest concern from what I gather from most people. I think we've addressed some of your water and sewer issues, but those could be handled. If this is allowed to move forward and we can put restrictions on it with it being residential, with it being commercial, we have no way to add any restrictions. So we could see by it being a commercial application, this is just from your experience with other projects that you've done, commercial, 14-acre tracts, bigger tracts, you add little strip centers, little convenience stores, things like that. Do they typically have a front access and a back access? Could we actually see them turning some of that into those neighborhoods? Who was
Because the
concerned?
property actually butts up to College Street.
Yeah, so they actually could put their own road in, whether Mr. Hastings develops or someone else develops. This is my question for whoever might come in and do a commercial application.
Here's what I see. It has public access on 2 sides. In the city off College Street and on 515. A commercial development is not a gated community.
True.
So if you have a delivery truck going to a convenience store to deliver bread or milk or whatever, and then they decide they need to also deliver, they're also delivering to one of your businesses downtown, that would be an access point for them to cut through to go downtown. That's my opinion, if I was a driver of a truck. Instead of going back out to 515, going down a red light, if I could take a shortcut, I'd do that.
Well, if my painter needs to buy a gallon of milk and he can go up there and buy a gallon of milk, he's not gonna get on the 4-lane to go over and buy a gallon of milk. He's gonna run up College Street to get his gallon of milk.
There's another,
If there's an access.
that's another option.
So,
But
just-
and typically, commercial developments are not gated because of that. So that's how I would look at it if I were having to look at access through a piece of property.
I'd like to make a comment on that. That street is not zoned for commercial. So a commercial bread truck could not go down College Street.
It's a public street.
Yeah,
But it's a public street.
But you as a city have zoned that against being a commercial street.
But if Mike wants to go in his vehicle, his Explorer, to get his gallon of milk, I mean,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
people could travel.
He's in a residential vehicle.
Yeah. So
What he had
those
said
are
was
my-
a commercial bread truck could make those deliveries down that
There's a
street.
sign there that says no access for trucks.
But, you know,
It's
you have an
residential
officer
area.
sitting there all the time too, to keep them from doing that. And, I mean, people would jet through UPS, FedEx, those kind of folks. So that's my question is basically the commercial, do you typically see an entrance on the back side and do you typically see them from the front too?
If there's a public access,
Hey,
yes.
excuse me, y'all, you got 2 council members here that try to listen. We have a phone conference and we can't hear anything y'all saying. You've got to go to the microphone so we're supposed to all get the listen.
We were at microphones, so,
Well, we can't hear you.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Dyer?
Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Mr. Hastings, do we have questions for him? Do you want a chance, do you want me to open up a public
Well,
hearing
I
again
just, you know, look,
give you equal time?
well, I don't think equal time. I think to the Middleton's point, I mean, I understand completely, you grew up in this town, I didn't grow up here. You know? I'm trying to be sensitive to your feelings, Gene. I don't think you're trying to stop development, I think you just want the appropriate development there. And I respect that, I really do. And
I think, there was a lot of dialogue tonight about 515, and nobody's trying to pull a fast one here. No. No, my goal as a developer, if anybody wants to believe in this room or not, is to be invited back. I'm gonna own one of these homes. I'm gonna come downtown and eat. I don't want people looking at me like, gee, Johnny, you really screwed this deal up. I want people saying, hey, you did the right thing, and we appreciate it. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe that. We're God-fearing people. Someday I'm gonna go home to my maker. He's not gonna ask me how much money you make, Johnny. How's your stock account looking? How many cars did you have? How many airplanes? He's gonna say, how did you treat people? Were you honest? Were you good to them? Because I already know the answer. Now, people can believe that or not, but that's the truth. We're here to do something that adds value to this community. I wouldn't be here. We do this all over Atlanta. You can ask anybody. We do not build junk. We're not here to leave you with our mess. I want to be invited back. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, we did not get Mr. Valley on the phone, but after reading his text message, I do feel like that it is something if the council wishes to go ahead and vote, they would be able to, since it's being reduced and not increased according to what I got back from him. So I'm gonna have Jeff go ahead and do his staff analysis, and then I guess the council can make a decision as to how comfortable they are. Did you have any questions, Harold? Okay, Robert? Rhonda, Nathan, do you have any questions? Mike?
No, Mayor, I would like somebody else to verify your text message and Mr. Valley said that. I would like another council member to verify that.
Jeff actually, saw it, and my question was,
I did, Mr. Valley a text message as well, and he said that if there is going to be decrease, then there would be no need to have a resign, but if they were trying to increase the number, then it would be a resign.
and mine is,
I can read it right here. It says, if Hastings reduced to 56 single family, do we need to send back to planning commission? His response, no. It can be reduced, but not expanded by your vote.
okay, Jeff, will you go ahead and do the staff analysis?
All right. I don't have any problem with the rezone. It was residential at one time, changed commercial, as been alluded to tonight. Currently, R3, which is overlooked to the east, and R1 to the south, which is College Street. So you're right there in the mix of that. I don't see an issue as long as the owner understands, and I think Johnny does, that any water and sewer upgrades will be at his expense. He will put in water and sewer to tap into our mains wherever they are. It's down 515 down to the railroad tracks, wherever he has to go to get the water and sewer capacity. If there's any streets that needs improvement, that'd be at his expense. He talked about using College Street. It is a public street, and he can access that if he desires to use it. I would suggest that no building permits be issued until the final plans are approved by city council and city attorney. That's all I have. Question? You want me to speak to that, Mike?
This kind of gets back to the,
Yeah. This is not
yeah, I've got one of those.
part of the staff analysis, but, Ms. Nichols, you had mentioned a while ago that adult businesses are not allowed. They are allowed in an ordinance C2, what that property is currently zoned. I'm sorry?
A council member told me that.
Okay, well, it's the first page on the permissible uses, and I just want to make sure that that's clear.
And that's in our zoning book.
Yeah, it's in the zoning book, that's
Jeff,
not.
I have a question.
Ma'am,
You
for
said,
me,
yes,
Okay, I'm sorry.
you said full access to College Street. Does that mean that anyone from this, development could access 50-something cars could access the small
I'm
lanes of
saying
College Street?
he can, put an entrance on College Street. Same as he can,
Yeah,
GDOT it or.
there was talk about a gate and a shuttle to College Street,
Yeah,
but no.
that's part of the restrictions they'll vote on. I don't vote, I don't
Okay.
make those restrictions. I'm just stating the truth, what can be done and can't. As far as the zoning.
Question, Jeff?
No.
Yes, I have an email here stating that the planning committee recommended the approval of the Hastings development rezoning request from C2 to R3 with the following contingencies. And these contingencies are, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of
Hey,
this.
Joe, if you don't mind, come
That's
to the
gonna be covered
microphone.
just in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'll come to the microphone and do that, like Christina can actually hear it on the recording. And I think we're gonna read those too, when we read the recommendations from the planning commission, but if you wanna do it for
Go
us,
ahead.
that's great.
Yes, the planning committee recommended the approval of the Hastings rezoning request from C2 to R3 with the following contingencies. And my question is, are these contingencies still in place? Number one was no construction traffic on College Street. Number two was no short-term rentals allowed in the HOA covenants and the HOA articles of incorporation. Number three, gates with codes at all 515 entrances and College Street. Number four was no resident auto traffic from new development on College, only shuttle and pedestrian. Number five was utility infrastructure costs fully funded by the developer. My question is, can we get some sort of clarification?
Yes.
Because I don't think a lot of people
Okay.
are understanding this.
The first one that he said was the infrastructure could support the development. Becky, I think, addressed that already, that infrastructure could be supporting the development. The developer would pay for any and all upgrades, so we'll clarify that again. That's part of our development standards here. So that would be a normal for any developer that came in, whether it's Mr. Hastings or anyone else, or if it's a commercial application up there, they would still have to pay for any upgrades. The second one, the construction vehicles, they're allowed at this point, they could be allowed in the C2 application at this point. This would be a restriction that you would have to get the council to add to it, so that's something that they would be able to add or not add. The closing of College Street, the entrance to College Street, we talked about the emergency vehicles and the shuttle. Don't know how the council wants to make their motion. It depends on this motion that it ends up being made. So these are things that we're just gonna recognize again, that this, and the infrastructure is the other one, and the emergency vehicles. So it comes down to how they vote and the restrictions they put in there. We also have some other restrictions that I think Mike is, are you gonna address those that maybe, or some suggestions from our attorney? The restrictions that we looked at, the entrance to College Street was one of them.
Well, that's what he just,
Yeah, he did it from this too.
Yeah.
Is that where you were reading it from the planning commission?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, so some of them were the same. I think Mr. Valley just added some more about the GDOT guidelines that for the entrance on property. So I think it's a matter of how the motion is made as to what they're willing to put in there, what they're willing to leave out. So I think that's going to be a discussion, some council discussion before they try to make a motion.
Okay. My question was, just the planning committee approved this with these contingencies? My thing was, is it?
The planning commission makes a recommendation to the council.
Okay.
The council then takes that recommendation and in their vote, can they put restrictions or not?
And they can add to it or take it out.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
as far as the short-term rental piece of it that is in there, that's not allowed in residential anyway, so even if the HOA allowed for the short-term rental, our ordinance doesn't allow for it. So that was kind of a. Is there any questions from the council at this point? Are we ready for a vote?
Well, I'll get, Mayor,
Yes.
Hold on, just
Hold on one second.
so we get it for
He's wanting to make sure that the recording is on. Nathan, you have a question?
sorry, what's that?
Hold on just a minute. We're changing out the recording, the tape.
Now, our CD is at max, so I need to change it out before we continue. Slow. Okay.
Okay, so, any other questions, for Mr. Hastings, or any of the council members have questions with each other, or for Jeff Stewart, or for the board?
Full disclosure, first of all, I'm going to be recusing myself. I'm not voting on this because my parents do own the property adjacent to it, and their assets are held in a trust that I'm one of the trustees for. So I'm just going to the best interest for disclosure's sake for me not to vote. I think transparency is key, and I hope others within our administration will learn from that. So I'm not going to be voting. However, I must say I was not a fan originally when I opposed the tiny homes being there. I was 100% against that. I just think it was the right location. And I think even down to the 83 homes, that was the unit for the community, I think that's too much for the amount of property. But based upon utilities and all that, I can't find a reason to think that the 56 units would not be possible. I think it's very reasonable.
So, you're recusing yourself,
That is correct.
okay? So,
I'd like to make a motion, since the change was brought on tonight, that we table a decision until the next council meeting, give the councilman all an opportunity to study this just a little bit. I like what I've heard, and I like everything here, but I'd like to sit down and put my thoughts together before we go.
okay, so, do
My
you,
motion, I make a motion that we table this till the next council meeting.
okay? And do I have a second? Okay. I would like to ask, are we gonna have any type of drone plans, Mr. Hastings, or is it just what you told us?
I apologize, and I apologize to the citizens here. That's my fault. This was a decision that was made about a week ago, so I take the blame for that. And to answer your question, Madam Mayor, absolutely.
So can you get that to all of us?
Absolutely. It'll be done within a week.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
have a
It'll be an
motion.
engineered site plan showing roads, curbs, drains, gutters, water, sewer, detention, the
the main entrance coming in off of 515. And I promise you, that's gonna happen, guys.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor, and Mr. Hastings is going to send us his new plans that are reducing, the buildings to 56 units. Do I have, I guess I can call for a vote, okay? I have a motion, a second. And, lost my password.
Motion needs your phone.
Sorry. Okay, Harold, Mike made the motion, who made the second? Harold. And so Robbie,
Yes.
Nathan?
No, he's
Oh, you have to refuse, I'm sorry. Rhonda? Rhonda?
Yes, I vote to, although I feel like we should, actually I'm voting no, because I feel like we should go ahead and vote on this tonight.
Okay, Harold?
I think we've kept people waiting long enough.
Harold?
Yes.
Yes. Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so 3-1, and so it's tabled. Okay, all right. Short-term rental utility rates, Mike Tanner. Thank you all that came for the hearing.
May I ask, could that be made public so we could see that before the next meeting, possibly his plans?
We can put it on our website.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Short-term rental, Mike Tanner, utility rates.
Okay, just real quick. We have some short-term rentals here in the city, some have been approved, and there's several situations. We're starting to review all of that, and we're finding that some of these short-term rentals, which is a business, is on residential water rates. And my recommendation is anybody on a short-term rental that is renting their business, their home, they need to be moved to commercial water rates.
And that is city and county, even
See,
outside.
everything that we're touching.
Okay, do I have that's a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in, Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan? Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold? Mike?
Yes.
Building inspections? Nathan? Well, we discussed this in the workshop meeting on 10/6, that we were going to take it to the county, and we talked with Jamie a couple of times last month, and just 2 days, or Friday. And he's just now got into office, and he's been there, he was going to meet with his building inspectors, and he's going to get back with me the next few days before our next meeting. So, I can't hear you. They don't have it. Well, according to Keith Nicholson, that's who talked with Jamie, and he said that they were interested, so I guess if they said no, we would find somebody else.
Get that in writing, Bart. You get that in writing.
Well, okay, we'll be glad to. I think Jeff will have to meet with you, so. Okay, do you want to make a motion to look for somebody else? Do you want to table it? You've got it under action. Well, I do know that we've had some really good people that own boards. As a matter of fact, a couple of them are actually in this meeting before they walked out the door.
Somebody being qualified to do something or two different things there.
Well, I think he's going to do a good job anyway. So do you have a motion to get a building permits? Do you have a motion to move forward with this?
No, I've been
somebody, we've had information out there, we've called people, we've not had anybody that's.
What information have you had out there? Can you tell me what information?
Well, we've called the LJ folks that do those building permits, so do you have a motion, you have it under action, do you want to table it, do you want to make a motion to hire somebody, do you have somebody to hire?
Well, I guess you just said that you're gonna get back with them, and I'll make a motion that we table this till next month.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Robbie? Table?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold? Mike?
Yes.
Meeting times ordinance, that was vetoed. My suggestion was, since Mike is working on our, his committee, he and Harold are working on our meetings policy, that they work on all aspects of the meeting, including time and dates and all of that. So I think you should think about tabling that till next month, till we can do the entire ordinance.
Well, to me, we don't need a meeting with the committee to do something with the council decision again.
No. We have, the whole reason for committees is to get things worked out. To gather information, to put it together, and I think that. No, committees in the charters of the mayor, so do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to table this tonight.
Do I have a second? Robbie? Nathan? Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold? Mike?
Yes.
Okay, special events ordinance. You can either vote it up, vote it down, or the request that I had was to amend the parade definition to leave out the vehicles and the people, numbers, and just to have a general definition of a parade. So, do I have some type of
So
motion?
what is Dr. General definition of parade? Define that to us.
I asked you to remove the one section in there where it did the vehicles and the,
I heard that, you said you just want a definition of parade. What definition?
well, my definition would be parades, marches, protests, and processions means a group of people or vehicles proceeding or moving in a body or in a concert along the streets or sidewalks of the city. That would be my recommendation for the amendment. Okay, is that a,
Then why didn't you do this to begin with?
I did. I asked you to leave out the section from the one comma to the other.
You did not supply a.
No, you didn't.
Okay, so that is my recommendation for the amendment. So is that a motion,
Well,
Rhonda?
thank you, it's about time.
Yes, I
Thank you,
agree.
it's about time. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, do I have a second?
That's all we needed.
I'll second.
Rhonda, I think made a
Ron made the
motion.
motion.
Okay. And Paul did that. Okay, Robbie. Yes, the amended motion on special events? No, we're amending it to that new the definition that I read out a while back, the parades, marches, protests, and processions.
No, the definition we've never received until tonight, let's be clear.
Numbers out.
We took the numbers out. Go back and listen to the minutes. So that's the motion, and there's a second by Mike, and so do you want to vote yes?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes.
Nathan? Nathan?
Yeah,
Rhonda?
yeah.
Harold? Mike?
Yes.
Okay, fire truck. We've had lots of discussion about a fire truck. I would like to ask that we consider using the excess money that we will have from our business licenses to put into fire protection for our citizens in our city, and that we put a fire truck out for bids. And I thought Kevin Painter was
Hey,
here.
listen, I've got a comment to make on this. I've had several residents call since the last discussion, and they said, it sounds to me like y'all are trying to say the county would not be responsible for our fire protection. However, we pay
because we have an agreement with the county, because we have an agreement with the county, an intergovernmental agreement that says that we.
No, go back to the exact question, don't skate around, I need to.
I am trying to answer your question, that we have an intergovernmental agreement that was done with the county that says we will provide a fire truck.
Okay, which is fine, but should they be denied fire protection? Because, should they be denied fire protection?
I don't think they're gonna be denied. As a matter of fact, the county truck is down. They've actually had to bring a truck from another fire station from what I know, and that's our fire truck that's working. So our residents, I hope, are protected, but I think it's our responsibility to look at how we're gonna upgrade our fire truck, the part that we have signed an agreement to provide.
So when we looked at this intergovernmental agreement, I was reviewing it today, and I know the last term I was in, we were notified. The city of Petition, the residents there pay county and they pay city taxes. And same thing with the city of Blue Ridge residents, they pay county and then they pay again, they're double taxed. But the Petition residents, they don't provide any type of fire, anything dealing with fire. They don't have a fire truck, they don't do anything, but yet they get the same service. So I guess we're, our Canada residents, the Blue Ridge residents are looking to, we're paying, we're double taxed. And, why would the Caseville not be contributing as well?
I guess that's a
Yeah,
question
well, I
from the
feel like the
Caseville and the
residents feel like
county.
that this is being pushed for political issues, not looking out for the best interest of the residents, and I have to totally agree.
Okay.
I got a question. This agreement's been done over 30 years, I think.
It's an old agreement,
No,
yes.
it was just redone.
But the other thing is, it's in place. I don't know what the agreement with the county and the city of McCaysville is. That is between those two entities. I was not involved in any of
Well,
that.
it's the that's the intergovernmental, it's a intergovernmental agreement between all of us. It's Morganton, it's Stanton County, Blue Ridge, it's all of us, and we,
And I know they provide fire stations.
so it does kind of have to do with us, too, because we entered into this agreement, we want to do these things.
Well, my question is, or do we want to put a fire truck out to bid, knowing that we have some issues with our fire truck? Or do we want to table it? Do we want to not buy a fire truck? What do we want to
Well,
do?
let me ask you a question. Did you suggest that we have training, and I've talked to Deputy Painter, I talked about learning the training in February, should we not wait until after our training to really delve in and answer the important questions that we need to ask about the intergovernmental agreement and all these things that are going on at that training before we make a decision tonight?
I think your training is about the operations that they do, but it's up to you then to table your fire truck that I've asked for a year and a half for us to look at.
This is the first time you've ever brought it to the council.
No, it's been on the agenda before, but so do you want to move forward with
You'll have
getting
to
a
say
bid
that
out?
too, I don't think so.
Okay, do you want to get a bid out or do you want to table it till after your training in
No,
February?
I want to table it.
Okay, is that a motion? Is that a motion? Well, I think Trevor is here, and I think it was between the attorneys, the last that I had, and I believe our attorney sent back the cooperation agreement that you have. I think he had struck out some things that maybe the attorney for the housing authority, or is it your actual attorney?
It was a standard agreement.
Yeah, and he had struck out some things, and this is the copy that he sent to your attorney. This is the copy he sent to your attorney, Trevor, and your attorney didn't accept it, I think is what ended up being.
Correct, because
So that's the cooperation agreement that Rhonda has sent to us, is that the one that the attorney struck out, those remarks.
and do you have the copy of the original one before it was struck out?
Rhonda sent this to the city clerk.
And the original one from 1960?
Actually, I didn't, that was sent by our attorney.
This started back in January of last year.
Yeah,
And it's a cooperation agreement that's standard throughout national with housing authorities in the cities in which they operate, in which the housing authority issued bonds in order to build the housing authority. The city benefited from those bonds. This agreement is just merely to have a good faith agreement between the housing authority and the city, because the housing authority in the state of Georgia is tax exempt. We are not required to pay taxes on the property in which we have our
Your public
apartments.
taxes, yes.
But with this agreement, it provides a way for the city to benefit from the taxes. We provide a payment in lieu of taxes based on that. It's based on a percentage of shelter rate, shelter rent, for the year. That's determined through our accountant. We provide it to you each year for approval by the council. Once that approved, we will then send a check in. I don't want to get too involved in it, but yes, attorneys were involved in it. I think the attorneys had their personal issues with it, or with each other, I might say, and it just pretty much stopped. We had to convert from public housing to Section 8 this year, and in doing so, we had to close by June 1st, and then we had to present everything to HUD Legal. HUD Legal had to review everything, and their first comment was, well, what's the situation with the cooperation agreement? The standard cooperation agreement, we have found out through this conversion under HUD, typically only lasts 50 years. I don't even think a lot of housing authorities know that. So what we were trying to do was bring that exact same cooperation agreement to the city to see if the city would want to sign it in order to continue their partnership in the future.
I think this agreement that's in here, and you can look at it, Trevor, if you want a copy of it. I think this is the one that your attorney sent to our attorney, and our attorney struck those. So I don't know if you're looking for the older cooperation agreement that we had and a duplicate of that, or if this one that the attorneys went back and forth with. So are you wanting this one?
I'm wanting the original one before the attorney strike out.
Okay, that's not what's in our packet tonight. I think this is the one that the attorneys were going back and forth with. You
There
can
was
look at it.
also, I also provided a copy of the original cooperation agreement, and it is also emailed too, it's on attachment.
Who did you provide that to?
I provided it to Rhonda and also through email to the council and yourself back in January.
Okay, so this is what was sent.
Hey, Mayor, my question to you is why is it taking so long? Why did they not there?
It's attorneys that have been going back and forth, as you heard him say.
We're quite familiar with the file, like we researched this a little bit, again.
Okay, then you know that attorneys went back and forth, and you could have read all the emails there, so my question is, do you want this one signed? Or do you
I
want-
do not want the one that is red marked, absolutely
Okay, that's
not.
what's in our packet for today.
Okay.
I didn't put it in there.
If that.
You said there's a HUD Legal, is that a different attorney that you deal with through HUD Legal?
No, but HUD Legal is just HUD's legal department, which our attorney has provided this information to them in order for us to close on this conversion. The reason I want to do it, we don't have to sign it. All I would like to do is partner with the city, because what we would like to do is provide, I think what the most topic of conversation here was affordable housing. And that's what our goal is. That's why I was brought in. We're actually beginning that conversation now with developers and the board. We're looking at sites, we're looking at land. There's a lot of land apparently for, that's available. I would like to be a part of that discussion possibly and see what we can do to provide affordable housing for the citizens. Not necessarily $250,000 to $500,000 homes.
Somebody, which one had a question? Nathan or Rhonda, who had a question?
Oh, Rhonda.
So my question is Fraser is happy with the original structure prior. Why don't we just continue with that one if it makes our parties happy? As to why we shouldn't just continue that same one?
Not at all. It was just a
I mean,
newer.
the attorney should review the original one.
Hold the microphone so.
I would say it was just a newer, cleaner version of the original cooperation agreement. The original cooperation agreement is 60 years old. I mean, it's getting hard to make copies of to be legible. So this is just a newer one. It's 50 years later. That's the newer version of the cooperation agreement. I think I provided the previous one and the new one verbatim to see if you guys wanted to see the wording in it, and if anything was changed, and if you had an issue with it, we would address it.
Rhonda, can you hear me?
Yes.
I met Trevor,
Yes, sir.
3 or 4 months ago, and then I actually talked to James a little bit about it. And he said him and the attorney were having some issues back and forth with the contract. So why don't we do
Yeah, I had
this?
the same conversation.
Why don't we table this till next month? Why don't you and I work together with James on the contracts and try and see if we can get this worked out over the next month?
Would I be involved in that conversation?
I don't know why you.
In a very quick
Oh, it's just
manner,
asking.
you know, resolve so that they can report. I agree, and maybe even pull out the original and.
Yeah.
Yes, I've got all, I have
You
copies of it right.
Trevor, are you fine with that?
Yes, sir. I can bring copies of it all.
Then hopefully by next month.
Yeah, we can't sign it until it's approved by the attorney.
Yeah. So I make,
Mike will do it, leave the mayor out of it, so y'all can get this done.
I make a motion that we table this
Yeah, we'll work with James.
until next month. Me and Rhonda will work together with you and see if we can get it
And
done.
I have been corresponding with him about it, so I think we just need to get it done and move forward.
I would appreciate it. That'd be great.
Thank you, Trevor. Do you have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that, we table this corporate agreement between the city and, Blue Ridge Housing Authority till next month, to review the contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Robbie,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Rhonda,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Short-term rental variance removal from ordinance. Rhonda.
So this is my suggestion, and I was reading. Well, I thought we should do this. After the last, when the first variance was granted in the last meeting, I had people contact me and see their neighbors, and they said, one was in the audience, and did not want to see. And another said they do not, why should the neighbors have to bring complaints against the RBO? We're supposed to be neighborly, why is the city not doing their job? And then I also talked to people on the zoning board. They feel like this is going to be kind of encumbrance on them for us to have to do this. The logical thing for us to do, we probably never should have even added that. It's going to make it simple for Petition to monitor short-term rentals. If we remove that, you know, if there's anything coming in, if there is no variance, they need to get their property rezoned C1, C2, very simple. So, actually, probably for the first in the ordinance, that would have to be added, we added it, try to be open about it, but I think it's going to become that. And I just feel like it's in our best interest as a city to protect the zoning board, to protect us, and to take the workload out of Christina, in our action. I just feel like this needs to be removed from the ordinance. If someone wants to have a short-term rental, it needs to be in a, they need to get it rezoned, very simple. So I just feel like this is being abused, it needs to be removed. And I've spoken to several council members about it, and I'm getting the same response, and I've spoken to the members of the zoning board about them, and they feel exactly the same way. So, you know, my suggestion is that we remove the variance portion from the ordinance, and that way it just allows people to try to go to rezoning if they want to have a short-term rental. Any questions?
No, to be honest, with that motion does make more sense. I don't know why we couldn't do that to begin with.
Yeah, I know. We probably shouldn't.
So we'd basically we'd basically rezoning, anybody who wanted short-term rental would come before the zoning board and us to get approval for short-term rental.
Now
For a reason.
Rezoning, correct.
So then you have people all over asking for rezoning. And they have that option also. They can actually ask for rezoning now or a special use permit as either or.
That's what I'm saying, the variance.
Not both fit. There might be
Yeah,
areas that.
I just prefer they ask for rezoning, if that's what they want to do, it should be commercial, be commercial, just like we did with our rate, you're either commercial or you're residential.
I agree.
But to start asking for all these variances,
Amend it.
Amend the
To
ordinance.
amend the ordinance for,
I make a motion that we amend the ordinance, to remove the special use permit and only allow for rezoning for, short-term rentals.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Architectural review guidelines?
Yeah, so, we even talked about, back and forth, we talked about having some sort of architectural, guidelines in the city. I know the last few years, there's a lot going on downtown, how we used to build it downtown, and the landscape of our downtown has changed drastically. And I'm not really sure how or why, someone has gotten by, but I think we have got to buckle down, architectural review committee in downtown. And I have suggested that maybe something we have a local architect, he even agreed that he would help on the committee. And then I think we also discussed putting back to the DDA, which is really something that the downtown development authority within the district would handle anyways. I think we've got to do something and have a process that either a committee or the DDA reviews the architectural review guidelines, and we keep the city consistent moving forward. Again, biggest complaint I hear about downtown Blue Ridge is the landscape is changed, and it's not in a good way.
Okay, so is that a motion?
Well, I'm at,
Let's ask.
well, I'm asking,
I like-
I guess I'm asking, if y'all look for a committee, be part of it, we should give it to the DDA.
We got Caesar right here, let him.
Yeah, and I totally balance that. I mean, I think the DDA is highly qualified, and I think they would be great.
Yeah, let me try to address part of that. Part of that, from a DDA standpoint, if you read the bylaws basically give us the opportunity to be able to do that for the city. Talking with James Bally told me that he cannot do an ordinance without city council approval to go after an ordinance. And that, in other words, I asked him to look it up for me, present one that we can present to the council to do architectural guidance for the city. There's nothing in the bylaws that says the DDA needs to do that. As a matter of fact, the bylaws state that James Bally acts as our lawyer just as much as he acts for the city as a lawyer. So there really should not be that veil between the council and the DDA when it comes to legal advice. Legal advice, as far as I'm concerned, if I ask James Bally to do something, he should be able to do it. He shouldn't have to say, okay, you need to have city council approve it beforehand. But going back to what Nathan is saying, yes, the committee that we have currently that looks at architectural design and historical preservation in the city of Blue Ridge is more than willing to take up the architectural design. All you have to do is have a ordinance that allows us to do it. Because it has to go into some kind of review process as these types of things come up. So.
And I think you had talked about doing building design anyway in the beginning with your DDA. I think, was Nicole not going to be involved?
No, Nicole is and wants to be involved.
Nicole,
Her committee wants to do this. However, we can't do it without an ordinance that says people who come to the city for these design requests or a project, well, actually the project up on the hills and outside of our CBD. But anything within the CBD, if somebody wants to build something, we need to see what it looks like, how it's going to impact the rest of the design criteria within the city. That has to come within that sequence somewhere, and we need an ordinance to make that happen. Any questions?
So, let's say if someone,
with the DDA before has been that unfortunately the process is process to work on. So maybe we can set up that process next month, I can put it through council.
Yeah, basically, that's what we need. And James should be able to look at other cities' ordinances and recommend one for us that we could just adopt if everybody likes it.
So do we want to, I'll make a motion that we table the process for architecture review committee until next month, so we can have some time to process together.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yeah.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold? Mike?
Yes.
City attorney to review documents, Mike Penner?
Yeah, I've had a conversation with another council member, a couple here and there, and I think there's a lot of things that we have approved and disapproved and looked at, and ordinances and everything, especially since I've been on the council the last 8 months. But over the last 5 or 6 months, I know James had been not absent, but he wasn't asked to come. And I want to make a motion that we instruct him to go back and review all of the things that we've signed contracts and agreements on for the period of time that he's not been here, to review that, so to make sure that we're not in violation of the charter. As a few weeks ago, we almost voted on something that, come to find out, we were in violation of the charter. It had been redlined by him. And I just feel uncomfortable with some of the things that we've done over the last 5 or 6 months, and I'd like him to review all of it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Hey, Mr. Painter, I got a question for you. So we are going by the charter, is that correct?
Yes.
Do I have
So
a
if we
second?
are, then all the violations the mayor has made to the charter, why is something not
That's
brought
just-
up by the other council members on those violations?
That's your opinion. That's what we have an attorney for.
No, that's not my opinion. Our attorney has even said that it was violated.
Well, let's see how it lies.
Okay, so I have a
We're
motion
going by
on
the
the
charter, we need to
floor.
go by the entire charter, everybody, by the entire charter, not just business people.
We're going to talk about that in just a little bit.
Okay, so I have a motion, do I have a second? Harold has a second, so, Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes, this has always been a procedure, so why would we change?
Harold? Mike?
Yes.
Okay, Mayor?
Hey, I would like to add something, Mayor, that's always been a procedure, so, yeah, whether or not they get a computer or not, I think that comes around to executive, correct?
Well, I'm just going back, a couple council meetings ago, we were asked to vote on something, and I made a motion to send it to the attorney to review. We did, and it came back redlined, and he said we were in violation of the charter. So therefore, in my
Well, I
opinion,
understand that,
yeah.
but if you will also remember, Mike, when that happened, we were also kind of tricked by Mr. Valley, because there was we had voted to change the meeting policy when Ken Gaddis came in, and he wanted to add where we could all vote, and to add time for the residents or people to speak in public. Well, at the next meeting, we voted to do that, and I listened to the 8-minute, it's actually a 10-minute tape of that.
We both did, all verify.
And Mr. Valley went over the changes, but he kind of forgot to put in there that he had allowed put in there that the mayor could remove
The mayor,
council
yeah.
members' items from the agenda, which, according to my attorney, is a violation of my rights and a violation of the charter, because the city council is the one who makes the decision. So.
They conveniently failed to let us know that, just so y'all know
Yeah,
that
I
right
think-
now.
And if anyone would like a copy of that tape, I have it. It's from May 8th, 2018. And
And we have other legal
he goes
changes to that.
over the changes, but conveniently, we're going to add, oh yeah, and I also added this.
Okay, well,
At the meeting,
we can.
hold on, let me finish. At the beginning of heard of that, he said, you know, have you all had time to review? We said no. And we said, would you go over it? He said, you want me to summarize it or go word for word? And we said, summarize it, that's fine. But during that summarization, it was completely omitted that the mayor would have the right to remove our meeting, you know, things that we've added to the agenda.
Which came directly
so,
from the mayor.
never did I look at the meeting policy again until it was brought to my attention that that was in there, and I said, we didn't vote on that, so I went back and researched the entire thing. So that's a little bit of concern to me that that occurred. And we're now asking for review. Maybe we should ask for a review about this.
Okay,
Why are
so,
we spending taxpayer money? Why are we spending taxpayer money, number one, on legal expenses that are not being approved well to the city, or allowing this sort of thing to happen? If this is the kind of thing that happens, you represent all of us, not just one of us, not the other, should be influenced by the mayor.
And I spoke to Harold about this too, and Harold's there now. Harold had no idea that we voted on that either. None of us did. So, I thought he got us, if you wanted to suggest it, he said no. So maybe that is a possibility. I don't know.
Well,
That
that was before me though, correct?
That was Christine Gaddis.
I think the change was June 9th of this last year.
Harold who voted on it, Nathan and myself, none of us, I didn't.
Well, let's go ahead and,
But, yeah.
let's go forward with this, and I'm gonna address some of that a little bit
But
later.
we all voted to do it, and there's, you know, I'm fine with reviewing, but let's make sure it's legit.
I agree.
Then we're getting all the details. And that's why, by the way, folks, that we wanted to review the meeting policy. And that's why the mayor suggested, hey, let's have a committee on it. So let me pick Mike, and I'll get Harold on it. And Harold and Mike are both very open to listening to what we need to do. But ultimately, what we want is for the residents to be able to see. We want the council members to be able to add what they want to add to the meeting so that we can actually be productive and do what we're supposed to do. And that's the whole purpose of that.
I'm gonna do that.
Okay, so mayor appointments.
Okay.
Okay, talked to Johnny the other day. He was actually in good spirits and laughing, and so it was really kind of nice to hear his voice, although he didn't sound like the Johnny we all know, but it's just nice to know he was.
You're saying that as part of the comment you put him?
Nathan, we're going forward here. Would you please give us a chance to get this done? Okay, so the mayor appointments are, in talking with LRB and Thompson, our employment attorneys, Police Chief Johnny Searcy will be reappointed, and he will serve as police chief, and he will be on leave without pay while he is out at this point. I do need a confirmation from the council, and Harold has walked away, so can we run back?
He's not in the break room, Mama. He'll probably be right back.
So, do we need to take a break? We've been here for a while, do we need a break?
I went and took one.
Should we order pizza?
We, okay, wait.
I didn't skip called in.
waiting on Harold.
We took a break.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at mayor appointments. Yeah. So we were talking about police chief, Orby and Thompson basically had said that we would need to go ahead and do our if I'm going to reappoint Johnny, and we are going to reappoint Johnny. And I had explained to them that Johnny had been talked to him, that he was in good spirits, he was laughing. He and his wife Brenda both said they appreciate the outpouring of love and support from our community, and it's just been really nice, and that he should be going to rehab soon. So we do know Johnny's got a pretty good little stint of rehab there. So I do need a motion to approve Johnny as police chief on leave without pay.
But, hey, can I get a clarification of something though? Mayor, are you not the one that tried to get rid of him without?
Nathan, I'm asking for a motion to approve Johnny.
I'm asking you a question specifically, Mayor.
And I'm telling you that we are approving Johnny as police chief.
I know we are. We are the council. We approved him. But I'm asking you. You're the one that.
I'm asking, that is my appointment. There's not a discussion with you.
You need a motion?
I need a motion,
I
please.
make a motion that we reappoint Johnny Searcy as chief of police.
I'll second that motion.
All in, Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan? Rhonda?
Yeah.
Errol?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Okay, also with that, I'm gonna add that we have an interim chief at this point until Johnny is gonna be able to be back. He is on a long stint of rehab, hopefully,
We already have one.
and I'm asking for that to be Rob Stewart. So, do I have a motion for Rob Stewart to be interim chief?
No.
That is my appointment.
Year-old.
That is my appointment. That is my appointment. You either vote it up or vote it down. My appointment is for Rob Stewart to be interim chief.
I make a motion for Rob Stewart to be interim
No,
chief.
because we've already.
Do I have a second?
The attorney and.
Do I have a second?
The next in line was the assistant chief.
If you will read the Ellerby and Thompson report that came out, I don't even have to do this with a motion. I'm asking
Mayor,
for a
there's one
motion.
report about you that I've already read.
Ellerby and Thompson is the city employment attorney.
Can I ask you a question, Carol? What are your thoughts on this? That's your post. Can you give us your thoughts on this? Because I've not really gotten any updated information about this as far as Robbie or the others. So can you give me some information?
I can't hear that.
Oh, she's asking, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any information? I've asked for Robbie to be appointed as interim chief. I have the document from Ellerby and Thompson. It doesn't say I even have to ask for an appointment, but I'm asking y'all for the support of it.
You're also not of the police department, Mayor.
But I am the executive officer.
No, you're not of the police department. We took the department back and you're not over us.
And that is one of those things that is debatable, that what you voted on is even
Well, then you don't
questionable.
want-
I'm still the chief executive
We have
officer.
a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor,
And you ask
and I asked for a second. Do we have a second?
Harold.
Do I have a second? Well, I asked about the sharing of the job, you know that, as I explained to you yesterday, I asked about them doing as an assistant, 2 assistant chiefs, and Mike Crestwood was not interested in that, so, and as you
So
and I
Mike
had
is
the
not interested,
conversation.
I guess that's what I was asking.
He's not interested in sharing the duties as an assistant chief, and the duties have to be done, Johnny's duties have to be done.
He has been doing it.
Mike is not interested in sharing his duties with someone else.
He's what?
He's not interested in sharing the duties suggestion was that you share them with Rob Stewart, and that would be an A team and a B team. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I didn't hear you.
The motion was for an interim chief to be Rob Stewart.
You're not a council member, you can't make that motion.
I didn't make the motion.
I made the motion.
Who did?
Robbie,
I made the motion.
Can I,
Of course.
do I have a second?
can I pull your?
Do I have a second?
Can I hear from Carol before I move forward with making a decision, because Carol is under that department. I'd like to hear what he thinks and his thoughts. If that's possible.
She wants you to tell her she wants you to tell her what you think. And his comment was he would like to see the duties shared.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, Mike, might be putting off some of their duties and stuff instead of taking, because that's what I'm doing before. But,
I think you don't give it that.
uh,
He said Mike might be handing off some of the duties. What was the other thing you said?
anyway, so, I think with Mike and Rob sharing the duty as interim chief or assistant chief, whatever title you want to give them, I think we'll get a better communication line instead of maybe just passing the responsibility down the line.
Well, and my suggestion for that was that we would have one on each shift. We'd have an A team and a B team assistant chief. Mike Crestwood
Mayor,
is,
why did you not bring this up prior to the meeting? Harold and me are, why did you bring this up before the meeting?
because this is an appointment that I am suggesting because we have had some issues that need to be addressed, and I am asking for an interim chief, and that to be Rob Stewart. Mr. Presswood did not want to share the duties with another person. So,
Mayor, answer the question.
I gave you what I needed to give you. That's what I'm suggesting as interim chief.
So you made,
So,
we have a motion.
I have a motion for Rob to be interim chief. Do I have a second?
so if Carol,
Well, no, Harold just said they had shared duties, and now you're overriding
No.
Harold.
No, the motion that's on the floor is for interim chief.
Well, Harold just said that Mike's doing duties, but he thinks that they should share on it.
Well, he said that Mike was passing on the duties to someone else, is what he said.
Well, is Mike there? Because I think we need to hear from him.
He is not here. So he is passing on the duties to Joe Patterson to do, as you know. He is passing the duties down to another officer. It needs to be higher ranking officers that have those duties that Johnny was responsible for. The decision making.
I think we need to give it to y'all.
I think it's a motion on the floor for interim chief
Well, that didn't matter to you earlier, Mayor.
for Rob Stewart, and do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
So I have a motion and a second.
but this is, and I am, since I'm not there, I'm a little bit confused. Are we doing for shared duties?
Interim chief, Rob Stewart. Mike did
No,
not
it's
want
turning
to,
around.
Mike did not want to share the duties with someone.
Now, to the point, the chief, Harold said, shared duties, which I'm okay with, but of course he's getting around that.
Okay, so Robbie,
Okay, with shared duties too.
Me too, but
Yes.
not.
Nathan,
Well, let's just, then we vote no and come back in a minute and.
Nathan?
Shared duties, me and Harold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nathan, your vote.
No.
Rhonda,
No.
Harold, Mike,
I'll vote yes.
okay. Well, it doesn't say, according to Ellerby and Thompson, it doesn't say that I had to even do that for vote, so I'm just gonna tell you, Rob Stewart's gonna be our interim chief.
No, you can't do that.
Did you not read the email from Ellerby and Thompson that you were sent on December the
Mayor,
8th,
we'll be in
2020?
touch tomorrow about this, if you're not doing that. Sorry.
Well, I'm just telling you.
No, you're not telling me.
Then you put another vote on the floor, and you didn't put another vote on the floor. Barbie?
No.
No. Nathan?
Yeah.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold?
Repeat the motion.
To share the duties for assistant chief.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
And, hey guys, just so you know, I just had the legal counsel text me and they said the letter does not trump the charter, Mayor.
The charter says that the mayor is the chief
The
executive
charter
officer.
is the ultimate goal. The letter doesn't trump the charter, ma'am.
Who's your attorney that gave you that advice?
Don't you worry, David Stockman.
Well, you probably should read what the employment attorney sent. So interim secretary, city clerk, with Kelsey's resignation, I'm gonna ask that Barbie Gerald act as interim city clerk until we get someone hired. Do I have a motion? Harold is
Have you heard
shaking his
anything
head.
about
Harold is shaking his head yes for a motion.
Motion
Approve Barbie.
Barbie is interim.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mike second. Okay, Robbie,
Yes.
Nathan,
that? No.
Rhonda, Rhonda? Did we lose Rhonda? Harold?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Carter and Sloop, PO 28960. 5907. There's two of them.
I'm back.
Okay.
You missed the vote on that.
We're on Carter and Sloop, number 12, for Barbie
They
is
probably
city.
cut you off intentionally, but you missed the vote.
You didn't, you were still there. You had to both get cut off if we would have cut you off, so. Carter and Sloop, you have your invoice in there. Your PO is 28960, and it's got three different, it's got the general consulting 590750. The wastewater treatment plant for the temperatures and metals is 75, 65, 25, and then the sewer plant permit renewal was 662.50. I don't know the total on that. Somebody might have done the math in his head. Did you do that? Total is 8945.11. It's on this. 8945.11.
For all three?
All three. Do I have a motion to approve Carter and Sloop, PO 28960?
I'll make a motion that we approve Carter Split, PO 28960.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yeah.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
CVS Pump Station? Purchase order 28918. $9,123.24.
I'll make a motion, we accept PO 28918, Carter and Split.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yeah.
Rhonda? Rhonda?
Yes. Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I do not have the third PO 28949 in my paperwork. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. 28949. It passed a 3-1. It passed a 3-1.
Yeah, I was not there, because it's posted, I have every right to be, that I was disconnected, and I'm now back, so I have every right to be.
Okay, well, we'll go back and revote that one, but let us finish 284949. CVS pump station 28949, $15,025.23. It was the emergency repair. I think y'all had already kind of
I
pre-approved.
make a motion, we approve PO 28949 with Harlan Swift.
For CVS pump station.
I mean, excuse me, CDF pump station.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Robbie?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, police vehicle. We had actually asked North Georgia Ford to order 2 vehicles. And basically what happened with Johnny's, he has been doing a vehicle, pretty much trying to do a vehicle every year. And then a couple of times we've done 2 vehicles a year to try to keep the fleet up. Right now, we've got a vehicle that we've got a little bit of an issue with that's being repaired, but there's still a vehicle sitting at the Ford place that was ordered for us as a police vehicle, and we are in need of going ahead and buying another vehicle. Tim Ford had given us a good price when he did those. The price is the same, except he's had to pay about $300 in fees in order to hold this. I guess it was his floor plan fees. And he's asked if we purchased the vehicle, if we would pay those fees also, the additional $300. And we did order them. Johnny did get approval from everybody to do that. He had it in his budget. And so I think we need to go ahead and purchase the other vehicle. We've got it.
Actually, Mayor, let me clarify that. We actually went back and only approved one of them, and they both did not get ordered. We called it before they were ordered, so remember, Harold, I think, can verify that.
That's not correct. That was this year's vehicle. It was the 2019 and 2020, the 2020 vehicle. In 2019, Johnny ordered those at the end of the year, and they did not come in until 2020. So we went back through, Alicia and I went back through that. So you actually have budgeted and approved for all of these, and my question
No,
to
we
Alicia.
originally budgeted and approved, but we came back, we asked the council if they would do one this year, and they would do one next year. And we went-
Well, regardless, you've got a guy with no heat in a
Mayor,
vehicle.
would you stop interrupting me? Would you be quiet for 1 minute? You know how to do that? We went back to the Ford dealership and told them that we would order one this year, or this is the past year, and one this coming year. That's exactly what we did. I know we did because I was calling.
Well, it's in your budget. It's in your, it is in your budget for 2019, $75,000 for 2 vehicles, $75,374. I am talking right now. Would you give me a moment to finish telling you? That was in 2019. Those were ordered and they did not come in until 2020. So we have the money that was approved. I'm asking for us to go back to the
You're
fund.
missing the point. I'm aware of that. I am well aware of that. You're missing the point. That is not what happened. Quit lying. Quit telling us.
I got the paperwork.
Well, give it to us. You don't give us anything else.
So my question is, are we going to purchase this vehicle that the man was asked to purchase for us from 2019 that came in 2020, and to go back to the fund balance of last year to be able to pull the money from? So I'm asking for a vote to purchase this police vehicle. Pretty simple. Do you want to buy a vehicle or not?
Give the minutes of the meeting, get all the facts and present them to the council.
Okay, I'm asking for someone to make a motion to vote to purchase a vehicle.
I know what you're
It's been at
asking for,
the
what you
Ford
want,
place.
not what the truth is. That's what you're asking for.
It's in the budget, it was budgeted in 2019. So do I have a motion for the North Georgia Ford vehicle?
We got one.
We did these a long time ago. Johnny had him order both of the vehicles.
Yeah.
They don't.
No, they did not, I'm telling you, I know the facts on this, that is not true.
It did not come in till July of 2020, but Johnny ordered it in the fall of the year
Hey,
before.
Mayor, will you resign from office if you're wrong? Will you?
Johnny Cersey asked Tim Ford to get us 2 vehicles.
Okay, I've talked to Johnny about this, and don't act like you and Johnny are friends. He can say when you went up and made tons of lies and rumors on too, and now you're acting like your buddies with him.
Can you get to your point? Do you want to buy a vehicle or not? So,
Harold, you want to build, you're over the police department, it was budgeted.
Harold, you are the police commissioner. Do you want to buy a vehicle that was budgeted? And here is the budget that Alicia gave me.
We did not order it before. We did, I know we did.
Somebody shut me.
Don't know what political thing.
Okay, he's waiting on someone to shut up for a minute so he can talk, is what he said.
That would be you.
Well, I make a motion, we purchase these, 2020 Explorer, North Georgia Ford, $32,168.40 plus the $300 he had to pay waiting on us to pick up our vehicle.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All, Robbie? Yes. Nathan?
Yes, but I want all the facts
Rhonda?
presented by you, Mayor,
Rhonda?
of what you lied about tonight.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm sure that the guy that is freezing in a car will appreciate y'all getting that vehicle taken care of. Okay, Rhonda, we'll go back. I've asked for Barbie to be interim city clerk at this point. And we did already have a vote, but we'll revote that. She will act as interim city clerk until we have.
I spoke to her about 15 minutes today, and she is adamant she does not want that.
She told me she would do it.
She told me she did not want to do it, and that she would thank you for it and laugh. She said she does not want it, she's got too much on her plate. We've got to get this in place with first.
The votes went through already, and Barbie told me she would do it because the documents have to be signed.
But Mayor, we don't trust anything you say because you lie about everything.
She would do it.
That's not what you
For a limited time.
Yeah, she said she would do it for a limited time, so we won't even go back there. Okay, discussion agenda items, red light at West Second Street, Rhonda.
We are going back there because I have the right to take the vote. I can't help it that my phone is
It carried 3-1, so even if you're a no vote, it doesn't matter, it's 3-2.
The other council members haven't heard the information from Ross.
No, that's not.
Well, Becky was here,
No, Barbie does not want it. She is emphatic. She does not want this. And she's been telling me that she mentioned it.
it's Robbie's department, so.
I don't care.
She said that she would do it for an interim term. She is not going to be the full city clerk. Christina will still help her.
She does not.
This is not the mayor's decision.
You felt it.
No, it's okay.
So why would you take direction and take Barbie away from all her duties? And what are you saying to Christina? I don't-
Christina will still be doing the same assistant job she's been doing until Christina has, she needs somebody to support her, and that will be Barbie.
So who did she have supporting her?
It was Kelsey, and Kelsey has resigned. Kelsey resigned.
We understand that she resigned there. The point being, she has, Kelsey's been on the council.
Okay, the vote is over. Let's move on. If we're going to number 16, red light at West Second Street and Mountain Street. Red light at West Second Street and Mountain Street.
Mayor, you don't have the right to do that.
Mike, would you like to go to water and sewer bond resolution?
They did not have.
He does not have the right to do that. She's not getting her way, absolutely not.
Well, I mean, even if so, I think that the county should
They voted, and they voted.
Why would they go against their own employees? I don't even understand it.
Because Barbie had told us she would do it.
And Robbie, Barbie told me that she had a conversation with you that she did not want this. Is that not correct?
She said she would do it for a short period of time, 90 days to
Mayor,
6
you
months.
got the wrong, not you.
Robbie actually said that a minute ago. Okay, so number 17, Mike, since Rhonda doesn't
No,
want to
no,
do
no,
number
Mayor wants to
16.
speak for everybody because she's got a hold on them. We want to hear from Robbie, not you, Mayor.
Did Barbie not tell you she would do this for a temporary time?
Mayor, stop talking.
She is going to answer you, Nathan, if you would stop.
No, because you won't shut up long enough.
So, I just simply have a question for Robbie. Robbie, what did Robbie say? He told me specifically that he told you that he did not do this.
She did.
And Cheryl, he told me that he told you did not do this. If you did not feel that Christine was able to do this, why did you appoint her over this the last 3 months?
I did not appoint Christina. Christina's assistant clerk.
That's what I'm saying. She's been doing it.
She's been acting out.
Yes, well, Kelsey's not been here the last 3 months.
She's had Kelsey for support.
So, Robbie, did you talk
From
to,
maternity leave.
Did she say that she would do that for a temporary basis?
Barbie will fill in until we get somebody. She is putting an ad in the paper.
Did she want to fill in?
No, she doesn't.
That is the question.
She will fill in until we get someone hired. She is gonna put an ad in the paper as soon as possible. No, who would want to be our city clerk with all this
Why
mess?
is being honest so hard with this group? Why is honesty so hard with this group is what I'd like.
Robbie just told you what she said, Nathan. That's enough, okay? So we're going to number 17, unless Rhonda wants to do number 16. We're not gonna go back and revote that. Red light at West Second Street.
Can I make a motion?
Yes,
I make a motion, we terminate this meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, Robbie?
Yes.
Harold?
Because you're here.
Mike?
yes.
Nathan?
Terminating the meeting.
We're terminating the meeting. Mike made a motion, Robbie seconded, and 3 of them voted, so
No, you don't have that right, Mayor. You do not have that right.
Terminated, Mike did.
Mike and Robbie did it, and all 3 voted. You guys have an opportunity to vote.